Good afternoon. Thanks for tuning into the Todd Allbaugh Show. If you are watching the stream replay, you can zoom ahead a little under 5 minutes. You'll at the beginning of the show. Today, it's just me for now. Todd had to help his dad out. He had another appointment getting cataract surgery on his other eye because turns out they don't do both eyes at the same time because being able to see at least somewhat is typically a good thing. But Todd will be on air with us for the third hour of today's show, the bonus hour. Yeah, next week we're back to just 2 hours, but for the rest of this week we're still at 3. Todd's out of town. He's going to be coming to us from, I believe, Chippewa Falls today and then Hayward the rest of the week. But the first 2 hours are a show that we recorded over the weekend. So it's still something new, just not live with Todd. So stick around and enjoy.
First responders know what to expect in emergency situations. The stickers should arrive in the mail by June. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WMDX News, I'm Nate Weggehout. 3 people were found dead at a home in Middleton late Sunday night. Middleton police are investigating it as a homicide. One man is in stable condition after he was shot multiple times. There is no known danger to the public, though Middleton police did advise residents near the home to shelter in place. Holds its namesake Indian Lake, miles of hiking trails, and a historic 19th century chapel in its nearly 800 acres. The master plan will help county officials decide on how to improve and preserve the park in the coming years. And that's what you need to know. I'm Nate Weggehout, WMDX News.
This is Chuck Smith, owner of Current Electric, home of the superheroes. Have you noticed electrical problems in your home or business? Flickering lights, broken breakers, outlets that wiggle and jiggle? Current Electric knows the most important thing is protecting your family, and our heroes are experts at electrical repairs and upgrades. With 8,500 5-star reviews and growing, we answer the call. Go to callcurrent.com. That's callcurrent.com. 262-786-5885. Keep your electricity alive.
Yeah, Andrew and Maine's probably right. Jane trying to take over the network again.
The Bucks' Damian Lillard named All-Star MVP. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The East beat the West in the annual NBA All-Star Game by a ridiculous final score of 211 to 186, a new all-time record high. Milwaukee's Damian Lillard becoming the first player to win both the three-point competition and MVP.
It's definitely one of those things where people are going to look at the game and say they don't play defense, and some people don't take the competition serious. But for me, it was just a break from the season and an opportunity for me to just be successful at something.
Baseball, veterans reporting to Brewers spring training camp, including their new first baseman, Rhys Hoskins, who signed with the club after leaving the Phillies. A week later, the Brewers traded pitcher Corbin Burns to Baltimore. His reaction:
anytime you lose a bona fide ace in this game, Corbin Burns, and he's really, really good, but, you know, an opportunity for some of the younger guys to step
Andrew and
up.
Maine says, yeah, the default answer for everything now. Jane is nothing if not persistent. Yeah, for sure. I mean, and to think this could all be over so soon if we just gave her the fruit plate and limo and, you know, everything else.
I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Under a mix of sun and clouds today as high temperatures climb mild once again, back into the mid-40s. We'll be bright and beautiful tomorrow and even warmer as highs reach 50 degrees. We even turn the dial up a little higher for Wednesday, too. It's 37 degrees at our studios.
KFC's new Smashed Potato Bowl is out here looking like an absolute snack. For just $3.49, you get crispy secret recipe fries topped with creamy mashed potatoes, cheese sauce, bacon crumbles, and even more melty cheese. If you're looking to smash your hunger, grab KFC's new Smashed Potato Bowl for just
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh with our outstanding producer, Mr. Aaron Zommers, on the board. It is 6 minutes now past the hour of 12 noon on this Monday, February 19th, 2024. It is President's Day. Welcome back for another work week and back to school. Well, for some, maybe having the day off because of President's Day. I know banks are closed. Some other financial institutions, government offices, those sort of things. Mr. Zommers, growing up, did you ever get President's Day off for school?
I feel like it has happened before. I can definitely remember times in elementary school where we had President's Day and we were there because I remember doing like basically effectively cut out coloring books about the different most famous presidents like George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and such. But I feel like I have had it off before at some point. I don't know.
My favorite president of all time, Grover Cleveland. Because I like to call, back in grade school, I'd call him Super Grover Cleveland.
There we go. Yep, you got to love
Super
Grover.
Grover! That was my bad Grover impersonation from Sesame Street.
I think everyone got it, though.
Maybe. We'll see. No, my favorite president of all time, the late, great President Abraham Lincoln. I mean, you can't get better than that, right? I've said this before, but I went down a number of years ago to Springfield, Illinois. And if you ever get a chance, go down there, and they have a great presidential library museum in Springfield for Abraham Lincoln, some interactive activities, that sort of thing. Really, really well done. Really encouraging. So
I'd like to check it out at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, they were taking, there are a lot of people have the day off because they combined Lincoln and whose birthday was the 12th, and Washington's, which I think is like the 22nd or something like that. And then they say the first Monday on whatever, the third week is President's Day. I guess supporting or all presidents, but I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either, honestly. We did our research today.
I'm sorry. It's the throat. I have so many. Normally, I'm a big, as people know, I love my beverages. I've got water. I've got lemon honey water, and I've got coffee. And for some reason, all of them are interacting with my voice today weird, and my burping, and I apologize for the way my voice sounds today. I'll try to take care of it and sound better tomorrow. By the way, we are kind of sort of off ourselves today. With full disclosure here, we are recording this show, or we did record this show on Saturday. And so there are no phone calls today, regret to inform you, but I'm taking the day off, helping out Dad having his second cataract surgery today. So helping out with that up in Shawano. And then tomorrow we'll be live with a brand new show from the beautiful plush studios in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. And then from there, we go up to Hayward. And we're going to do our show from Hayward on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week, covering the 50th annual American Birkebeiner ski race.
So yeah, Todd's taking another tour. Technically, it is still winter.
Yes, and a lot of people say, well, Todd, how are they going to ski? There's no snow. Well, thank you so very much for asking. They have been making snow, not just in Cable and Hayward, but I think for like an hour or 2 hour radius, different places that have snow making equipment. And then they're piling it into dump trucks, and they're heading into Cable. So the plan for this week is normally the race would go from Cable to Hayward, Wisconsin, 20-some kilometers. And it finishes right downtown Hayward. But because of the weather, the El Nino, what they're doing is they're trucking in snow, and they're making a 10-kilometer loop in Cable. So the race will happen in Cable, about 20 miles away from Hayward. But we're going to broadcast from our WBZH studios in beautiful downtown Hayward.
The buzz of the North.
Very good. And I will be staying on an air mattress. It turns out all the hotel rooms are booked. And I said, well, look, if there's a nice, single Danish guy, I'd be happy to share a hotel with him. But there were no takers, you understand. And so I'll be sleeping in the WBZH studios.
Country girls make do.
So, but God forbid there's any sort of an emergency, I'll be right there ready to go, hop on the mic and provide you with the latest information from beautiful Hayward. But it'll be great. There are very nice little studios there in downtown Hayward, and I'll be very comfortable. The reason I could do this is they have a shower in the Hayward studios. Very nice.
So now we've got that in a couple of our studios.
Yes, Green Bay and Hayward both have showers in the studios. So no excuse for Todd not being able to go there. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to today bringing you some new content throughout the day as well. Going to be talking. We started this on Friday and didn't have time to finish it because of the breaking news that Donald Trump was fined $355 million. Cain and Abel, Don Jr. and Eric, they were fined $4 million apiece. And the Trumpster was banned from doing business in New York for 3 years. So we had that special report on Friday. And so we didn't get a chance to go through all of this. So we're going to kind of get through it today. Very interesting. When was the last time that you went all day without a cell phone? Somebody called in last week and said probably the day before I got my first cell phone.
I asked some of my family and friends over the weekend. My youngest sister says, never. I don't know. I've had days when I don't use it much, like when I have a migraine.
Right. How old is she?
She is 21.
Well, sure. Basically born with a cell phone.
Pretty much. My dad said, this year, actually, not too long, or I guess 2023, he says, my phone died up north the day before Thanksgiving, and I basically didn't have a phone until I came back that Friday or Saturday. So he went a couple days without his phone because he had to.
That's impressive, yeah.
My oldest sister says she went a whole summer without her phone, but that was in 2009.
Oh, okay.
So a little while ago.
It's been a minute, as the kids say. Do they still say that? It's been a minute?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
And yes, basically other answers that I've gotten from friends involve I went on a backpacking hike for a few days or whatever. So they had a few days off, or one of my friends is a Marine, and with drill, sometimes he just didn't have his phone. So basically it was always a specific choice to do so. Yeah. It was never just, I didn't use my phone today.
Learned some very interesting stats in this story. We're going to share them with you a little bit later this show. When was the last time that you went without your cell phone for a day? And also give you some cool, helpful hints if you want to use your cell phone less. Some of them are pretty darn good. So we'll be taking a look at that as well. Want to start off, though, the show today with a story over the weekend. And again, we talked about this briefly on Friday, that all of these, not all of these, but the charges, these big charges from Republicans against Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, saying they'd taken bribes from Ukrainian officials and Burisma, caused a lot of anguish. A lot of people talked about this. Came out last week, late Friday, after a Department of Justice investigation. The whole thing was made up. Untrue, as it turned out.
What?
Surprise, surprise. Great story from our friends at MediaMatters.org. Headline: Fox News hyped a flimsy report that made dubious claims about Joe Biden. The FBI just arrested the informant who falsified the information. For months, Fox hosts and congressional Republicans have relentlessly pushed the incredibly dubious and unproven claim that then Vice President Joe Biden was bribed by Ukraine during the Obama administration. The informant, who is the sole origin of these claims, just indicted for lying to the FBI. After news broke earlier in the day, none of Fox primetime hosts even mentioned the indictment. Again, surprise, surprise. This is from a tweet, by the way, from Brian Stelter, an entertainment reporter. He tweeted out last week, Fox's talk shows have been obsessed with the allegation of a quote-unquote Biden bribe. Now, the so-called informant has been arrested and charged with lying. The number of times this bombshell was mentioned by Laura Ingraham, Jesse Waters, and Sean Hannity tonight? Zero.
Which shocks me, 0%.
Right? I've said this on this program before. I don't believe in a singular news source for anyone, including myself. And people who want to rely on Fox, who, by the way, I keep reminding people, there is a disclaimer that you can barely read at the bottom of many of their shows, Hannity included, that says this is an entertainment program. They don't even, under deposition with the whole voting scandal stuff, they admitted that they're really not a news organization. They are entertainment for the most part. That's fine if they want to be that. But people who rely on them for actual news, this is the problem. That when the truth comes out, they're not going to report it, especially when it doesn't behoove them. Article goes on from Media Matters. Fox News spent years spreading allegations that Biden was involved in corrupt practices in Ukraine in a baseless smear campaign against the president and his family. The resulting investigation, led by House Republicans, have been futile despite the constant promise of a smoking gun. How many times have we heard that? Well, we've got evidence that's going to come out. We're going to a smoking gun. No.
Well, we think it happens.
Right, we think. Trump's personal attempt to get involved led to his first impeachment, if you remember that. Fox News' research arm, the so-called Brain Room, at the time made clear this was a right-wing disinformation campaign. The latest Republican theory to collapse centers on a partial copy of an FD 1023. That's a summary document within an FBI interview with a confidential informant, which Senator Chuck Grassley circulated in 2023. Document says the informant claimed Biden accepted bribes from the Ukraine energy company Burisma, while his son Hunter Biden was serving on the board of the company. That's what it claimed. As it turns out, we found out late last week, none of it is true. Come back to discuss it more. Don't go anywhere. It is a pre-recorded Monday on the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Got a little sneak preview there.
It is I, your old pal Super Grover! And that was me too, only I was very far away, which is very fortunate, as today I am talking to you all about the letter F. Yes, that is why I have the letter F on my chest here. See?
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. It is now 20 past the hour of 12 noon on Monday, the 19th of February, 2024, President's Day. I was saying in the opening part of the show, my favorite president was Grover Cleveland because of Super Grover. Not true, but just any chance to talk about. So there was a cut from actually Super Grover on Sesame Street.
Yeah, and normally he has a G on his chest for Grover.
Yes.
But he had an F in this one because, he's got to tell you about the letters. And F is for flying. So in this bit, Super Grover attempts to fly.
Well, that doesn't work out too well.
I mean, it tends not to.
Welcome back to the show. Glad to have you along, Mr. Sommers, on the board. No phone calls today. Unfortunate. I am not here in person on a Monday. Mr. Sommers and I pre-recorded this over the weekend so that we can bring you some new content. But taking the day off, do a little healthcare help for Dad today. Everything is all right. Just a little cataract surgery. But anyway, glad to have you along with us on a Monday. We'll be back with a brand new live show tomorrow on Tuesday. Going to be live from beautiful Chippewa Falls tomorrow. We'll see what fun and excitement we can bring you from Chippewa Falls. Pat Kreitlow on vacation, so we won't be able to bring you any Kreitlow tomorrow.
Maybe you can break into his house and broadcast live from there. And you just sit in his normal spot for Up North News Radio and don't address it. This is a joke. We're not breaking into Pat's house.
This is absolutely a joke. I don't even know where Pat lives.
Me either.
And now I'm sure I'll never know.
You're welcome.
All right. Before the break here, talking about this story from Midas Matters or MediaMatters.org, talking about the fact that Fox News spread this, now we know it to be a lie about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and the whole Burisma thing, a lie, according to the United States Justice Department. And saying here, this all kind of centered on this called FD 1023. It was a summary document from an FBI interview from a confidential informant. Republican Congressman Chuck Grassley from Iowa circulated it widely in 2023. On February 15th of this year, authorities arrested that same informant, Alexander Smirnoff. Now, I don't know whether he is the same Smirnoff that makes the great vodka or not, but his last name is Smirnoff, Alexander Smirnoff, and the guy, as it turns out, was in Vegas. Now, I don't know if he was there for the Super Bowl or what, but he was hanging out in Las Vegas, and the authorities charged him with lying to the Bureau about Hunter and Joe Biden. The indictment alleges that Smirnoff falsely told the FBI that Burisma officials told him they hired Hunter Biden to, quote, protect us through his dad from all kinds of problems, unquote. Smirnoff also allegedly lied to the FBI that Burisma officials had confirmed Joe Biden accepted $5 million in bribes for the company, again, proven completely untrue. The contents of the FD 1023 form were never verified. Let me say that again. This FD 1023 that was circulated by Chuck Grassley and other Republicans defaming Joe Biden and Hunter Biden were never verified. But that did not stop Fox News from whipping up hysteria around the baseless allegations and decrying the alleged scandal. Host Sean Hannity alone, get this, aired 85 segments promoting the claim. 85, including 28 monologues. The Washington Post Philip Bump estimates that Fox News mentioned the claim about 2,600 times in the last 12 months. 2,600 times in the last 12 months.
I'm not surprised. I mean, you have stuff like, here's a little clip that I saved maybe a year or so ago from Representative James Comer, just because it was so representative of every talking point the GOP had at the time.
Sure.
If we can keep it about Hunter Biden, that would be great.
Right?
They were talking about something else entirely, if I recall. And then he was like, yes, but Hunter Biden's laptop.
Right. Kept going back to that time and time again. I just did a little quick math, by the way. It turns out that Fox News mentioned this false claim 216 times on average a month. Divide that by 30. That means 7 times a day for a year. 7 times a day for a year over a major cable news channel.
That'll happen when they have nothing else to talk about.
That, but also just the fact that talk about burning a message, right? No wonder people go around with misinformation all the time when it's being fed to them 7 times a day for a year. A lie. Just a few examples to show how Fox personalities went with unsubstantiated claims, which was also, by the way, not limited to Fox News. Here's one. Fox News Jesse Waters cited an allegation that Joe Biden accepted $5 million in bribes from a foreign national to justify his claim that as vice president, Biden was working as an intelligence op for the FBI. Waters then claimed the FBI was caught up in a cover-up, and it went from there. All of this untrue. Proven now, untrue. Here's another one. Fox and Friends weekend host Will Cain claimed the form demonstrated, quote, what we have suspected, unquote, and that Joe Biden's family benefited from a pay-to-play scheme, unquote. All of it, now we know, untrue. I mean, just time, I mean, endless, right? 7 times a day for a year. I mean, just pick any day, basically, on Fox News. After detailing the allegations in the, quote, long-awaited FBI FD 1023 form, unquote, Fox host Sean Hannity declared, quote, it's time for a real special counsel, a real criminal investigation to take place to investigate what is rampant corruption, unquote. He went on to claim, quote, we now have what is a trove of credible evidence that Joe Biden used the power of his office as the vice president of this country to secure massive amounts of money for his own family, unquote. Now we know. All of it untrue.
And as they say, every accusation is a confession.
Yeah.
Because as we just saw with Donald Trump being now held liable for fraud and on the line for over $350 million, maybe he's the one we should have been looking at.
Maybe, as it turns out. This is what's wrong. One of the things that's wrong with politics today. The proliferation of completely false information. There is no news in Fox. Well, maybe they're polling people. But other than that, not much at all. Back with more on the other side. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show for a Monday, President's Day, on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Answering a couple questions. First of all, one that you didn't ask, but I did. Why did it cut off the sound there? That was weird. Anyway, Andrew asks, recognizing you're both consummate professionals, is it more difficult to pre-record with the timing for breaks versus broadcasting live? The answer is yes. It's not too bad, but the difficulty is Todd's used to checking the clock for timing. And instead we have a timer put up, but the clock is still there. So later on, you'll hear, he'll say, oh, we'll talk to you next hour. And because the time, it was like 11:59 a.m. or something. But it's really the third, not the fourth part of the hour. So, but that happens live too. So it's pretty similar. The timing for breaks is, not that big a deal because we just use timers. Rico says, at least Grover's not in prison. The last guy that said he believed he could fly is in prison. See, Grover, he at least admits by the end of that clip that he can't fly. And he says, instead, I will do F for fall. And does just that.
Weather monitoring station in every county in Wisconsin. So the tagline there is everyone's got real-time monitoring station in their backyard, essentially. So it's an opportunity to take a look at how conditions are evolving in real time and get information that's important for rural communities here in Wisconsin.
You can keep up with the project by searching WiscoNet online. We'll take a look at more agribusiness news next.
Celebrate our century and sesquicentennial farms across Wisconsin. There is a growing list of farms that have been family-owned or operated for over 100 or 150 years. You can find out about them all year long thanks to our friends at Compeer Financial. Meet the families, hear their stories, and take a trip down memory lane by logging onto MidwestFarmReport.com. New farms are featured each Friday on our morning show. Celebrate century and sesquicentennial farms with the Midwest Farm Report.
We're exploring farming in the last frontier, Alaska. Come and join us. Hi, everyone. I'm Pam Yankee. The date's August 22nd through September 1st. We'll visit a variety of Alaska farms, including a private boat excursion to experience a shrimping operation. Of course, you'll get all the majestic scenery and impressive wildlife along the way. Visit holidayvacations.com, keyword Pam, for more information and to watch a travel video, or call 888-557-1020 today.
From 2022 to 2023, the size and number of Wisconsin farms is pretty much the same. According to the latest report from USDA's National Agricultural Statistics Service, Wisconsin is home to 58,500 farms, and the average farm size in 2023 was 236 acres. In other news, the Meat Processor Infrastructure Grant is taking applications until March 8th. The Meat Processing Grant Program aims to grow Wisconsin's meat industry and improve the long-term viability of the state's livestock industry. You can find a link at MidwestFarmReport.com. And while you're there, you'll see that National FFA Week has kicked off. Today, more than 210 FFA members will meet at the state capitol to talk to legislators. They're calling it FFA Day on the Hill. For the Midwest Farm Report, I'm Stephanie Hoff.
I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Under a mix of sun and clouds today as high temperatures climb mild once again, back into the mid-40s. We'll be bright and beautiful tomorrow and even warmer as highs reach 50 degrees. We even turn the dial up a little higher for Wednesday, too. Currently, it's 39.
When Cynthia came to TurboTax, she had just launched her new side gig, a true crime podcast.
I'm a first-rate detective with a golden...
Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Tell me lies, tell me lies. Oh, no, you can't disguise.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on a Monday, February 19th, 2024. Now 34 minutes past the hour of 12 noon. Glad to have you along on Monday, President's Day. Mr. Zomer's on the board. We are pre-recorded today. Back with an all-new live show tomorrow. Taking your phone calls. Putting a button on this story that came through over the weekend from Media Matters for America, following up on the bombshell information on Friday that all of this talk about Burisma and the Bidens taking bribes, this form that was circulated by Chuck Grassley, and we did the math here, according to Media Matters, and I believe it was the Washington Post, this stuff has been debunked. And it turns out that Fox News spread this lie 7 times a day for a year. And we gave you some of these examples before the break. Here's another one. Fox News anchor Martha McCallum agreed with guest Clay Travis. There's a brain trust for you. Part of right-wing talk radio. Clay Travis, he argued Trump had been, quote, held more accountable for allegations of criminal behavior than Joe Biden. I mean, that is just crazy. Travis then claimed that, quote, these allegations against Joe Biden make Watergate seem like jaywalking, unquote, referring to the Watergate charges against former President Richard Nixon. Clay Travis was 100% wrong. Again, according to the Justice Department late last week, they arrested this guy Smirnoff in Las Vegas because everything that he had testified, the key linchpin in the Republicans' entire charges against Joe Biden and Hunter Biden over Burisma is false. The guy made them up. He lied. There's not a single thing true, according to an in-depth investigation by the U.S. Department of Justice. And yet people tune into this goofball Clay Travis's show on the radio. I mean, it has big following all over the country. This is why I am so proud to work for Civic Media. And again, I'm not saying we all, even on this show, right? There's been times over the last year and a half where I've said, you know what? I had that detail wrong yesterday. I apologize. I want to correct it. We move on. The entire moniker is pursuing truth wherever it may lead. And sometimes it leads to places that we don't particularly like. I would much rather work for a company like this that allows that kind of thinking than, oh, let's just go with a story that gets us the most clicks. Even though we know it's a complete lie. The bottom line here in this story, for me at least, don't get all your news from one source, including us. Listen to, read, watch several different news sources. And by that, I don't mean places like OWN and Newsmax, even Fox News. But hey, I get it. A lot of people watch Fox News. But at least spend 10, 15 minutes watching CNN or ABC or CBS.
Or BBC.
Or BBC. Or Civic Media. Or the Washington Post, the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, the Wisconsin State Journal. Papers in Green Bay and Wausau, independent papers. Amory Free Press over in Amory. Because as we saw in Russia last week with Vladimir Putin, if you get a dictatorial leader, they will suppress free speech and it will become state media. Trump has said as much. If he gets another term, that's where we're going. He has said openly he's going to pull FCC licenses from places like NBC. All right, not some left-wing group. One of the oldest broadcasting companies in America, NBC. Trump wants to shut it down. Should he get another term? And people say, oh, he's just talking. He's just, he just says a lot of things. Really? Really? People like Trygve Olsen, who are on this show every Wednesday. Trygve, of course, has worked with a lot of people all over the world, gone up against people like Putin, like the Belarusians. And he has told us that based on his world experience, dictators, authoritarians, they'll tell you exactly what they're going to do. It has to do with the psychology or the psychosis. They're so sure of themselves, they don't care whether they're intimidated. They don't care that they're telling people, look, I'm going to stomp all over you. They'll just do it, and then they actually do when they get in power. When Trump says, I'll only be a dictator, well, only on day one. He is telegraphing that. When he says to Vladimir Putin, look, I'll say to the Russians, do whatever the hell you want. Oh, and by the way, a couple of days later, the Russians killed the opposition leader there. Coincidence? I think not. So make sure that you're actually garnering a lot of different opinions. You're watching different news sources. You're getting the truth, because there are places out there like Fox, like OWN, like Newsmax, who have a strict political agenda. And it's all about the clicks. It's all about the clicks. Glad to have you along with us on a Monday. Again, we are pre-recorded today, so no phone calls today, but we'll be back with all new live show tomorrow. Want to start something here. We'll probably continue it into the next hour, but this great article that we talked about on Friday a little bit, and we had the breaking news on Trump. Judge finding that he had to pay $355 million-ish to the state of New York. Cain and Abel, Don Jr. and Eric had to pay $4 million apiece. Barred from doing business in New York for 3 years.
Unfortunately, only 3.
Well, it's a start. But we want to get to this rest of the story today. When was the last time that you went all day without using your cell phone? Our crack staff here asks, ever had the feeling that use of an app might qualify as an addiction? An app, an application on your phone. Could be a dating app, could be a news app, could be a social media app.
It could purely hypothetically, be YouTube.
Purely hypothetically, Mr. Sommers says with some irony in his voice. Well, you can stop wondering. Yes, it is, and you are addicted. That's the case made by researchers Annie Margaret and Nicholas Hunkins in their article published last week by The Conversation. That's the case that they're making here, is that you should, by checking your phone all the time, it's kind of what used to be considered a smoke break. Smoke them if you got them, 5 minutes. Now, every time you have an open minute during the day, you want to check your phone, myself included. Purveyors of online apps manipulate your brain with algorithms, as it turns out, rewards, and even simple, try that again, Todd, and even simple sounds. They've about perfected how to trigger dopamine, the surges in your brain. Dopamine is the brain's reward center. It's a high. Same as gambling, same as drugs. It keeps you coming back again and again. Of course, online technologies offer many benefits. The problem is when internet overcompensation becomes destructive. Too much online compensation can hurt your mental and physical health. It can rob time for your life, the lives of your loved ones. An online presence cannot replace your in-person presence. That's a big one, I think, right there. Mr. Sommers, I've talked about it before. And I think maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, your generation, you're in your mid-20s, early 20s. I think some people, and maybe this is partly because of the pandemic and COVID and so much online learning, I know people of your generation who are more comfortable and open snapping or texting or chatting online than they are face-to-face in person.
Absolutely. I think that because we grew up with it, and then because of the pandemic, that only exacerbated it. People younger than I am, like COVID kids, as I call them, even if they're not that much younger than I am,
right,
where they really had very limited social experience before the pandemic hit, and then they're just stuck in their house all day. It's kind of tragic, really.
It is. And it is, I think it's confusing. I'm in my 50s. Confusing for people my age, even younger, who is like, just pick up the phone, talk to each other. And there are people of the younger generation who, as Mr. Sommer said, because they grew up with it, went through a couple years of school essentially online. It's completely changed the psyche of many Americans, how we communicate with each other. But this article pointing out that in-person presence cannot be replaced by online presence. And so, yes, Mark Zuckerberg, creator of Facebook. Oh, I'm sorry. Meta, Google, and others can manipulate your internet compensation level simply by the noises, the clicks, the dings, all that. People get obsessed, right? I think it's more of a younger generation, but people put things out on social media and then it's like a competition to see, well, how many likes did you get? I put it out there like nobody liked it. And they get like, I'm not making this up, seriously depressed because nobody's liking something in a social virtual world.
Yeah, that's something I used to make fun of when I was in like middle school and high school, and I'd be like, "Oh, these people going out for likes again or whatever." Like nobody cares. It's just like do it for yourself, not for all these likes. And I realize now that it's not that simple. Just like a lot of mental health things, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy and a condition that it's hard to escape on your own.
Yeah. I mean, there are, and so I think what happens is, from what I know, what I've read, what I've heard, is that particularly it seems like more girls, but some guys, teenagers, they'll put such stuff out on social media and then they'll brag in person to their friend group or whomever at school.
Yeah.
I got, 800 likes off my post last night. I'm over 1,000 likes. And then somebody says, well, I put something out there and it got like 5 likes. And then they make fun of that person. You got 5 likes. Who are you? You're nothing. I mean, this kind of stuff really happens. And yeah, we can laugh about it. And there's certainly a certain amount of humor to that. But there's also this very serious mental health issue for young people, young girls, young teenagers in particular, who take that devastatingly hard. And it affects them. So that's the bad news, that yes, we are addicted, almost all of us, in some way, shape, or form, to our devices. But there is good news, how we can take back control. Going to start this and finish it on the other side. Start by reflecting on your current internet and social media use. For example, are you spending too much time mindlessly scrolling? Well, I call it doom scrolling. What is it?
That's correct. Yeah, doom scrolling.
Yeah, doom scrolling, death scrolling, doom scrolling. I found this morning, actually. I something on Facebook popped up, and I just went to check it quick. 20 minutes later, I'm scrolling through my stupid Facebook feed, watching some reel about rhinoceroses going by lions. Why am I watching that? Watching baby chicks having a face-off with a baby. Why am I watching that?
Weird animal stuff gets people.
Weird animal stuff gets people, and apparently it got me. So, how can we take back control of our lives from our cell phones and other devices? We'll tell you more on the other side. Don't go anywhere. It is the Todd Allbaugh Show for a Monday, President's Day, February 19th. Mr. Sommers, I'm Mr. Allbaugh. Stay with us. Hour 2 is next on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Ring, 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 banana phone. Ring, 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 banana phone. I've got this feeling us to get together and sing, sing. Ring, ring,
Welcome
ring,
back
ring,
to the Todd
ring,
Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. That was a very quick top of the hour break. We are pre-recorded on this Monday, February 19th, 2024. And so we're not doing it quite to the, I'm looking at the actual clock, and it doesn't match up with our show clock because we're pre-recording on the weekend for today, for Monday. And so I said we're going to the top of the hour, and we got done, and Mr. Zomer says, we got one more segment this hour. I said, well, there you go. But nonetheless, it was a great opportunity to bring you one of our favorite songs, Banana Phone.
Absolutely. I was waiting for it. We were talking about phones.
Right?
It was going to come up.
So we are talking about phones, talking about how we can take back control because these devices, as it turns out, and I saw, I forget where it was, 60 Minutes or something a while back, that was talking about all the psychology that goes into this development, how they've tested meticulously the tone and the types of rings and little bleeps and stuff, like when someone likes someone or whatever, or Snapchat or whatever. Like they've meticulously tested and found out. Here's what it was. The bottom line was they matched the psychology to what happens in a casino.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
To what happens on our cell phones and our apps. I mean, the whole thing, get that. This is real. This is real. I'm not making this up at all. So you go onto your Twitter account, well, Twix or whatever you want to call it now, Twitter account, right? So here I am. I just pulled it up. Now, to refresh my page, get to latest stories, what do I have to do? I have to pull down, right? I have to pull down. And when you pull down, then it refreshes your screen. What does that pulling down remind you of?
Especially on on Twitter, it's one line in a slot machine.
Exactly what it is. They actually they matched that up, and when they created Twitter, one of the engineers that created Twitter, it was intentional that the pull down, the swipe down was like pulling a lever on a slot machine.
And now everything does that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that's where that came from, but I'm not surprised. I thought it was just like an ergonomic thing, but I mean, I guess it's so lucrative to make everything appealing.
Well, let's see if I can turn on my sound on my phone. So let's do it here. I'll scroll down. Listen. Hang on. Well, now of course it's not doing it. But if I have my volume up my phone, it makes that when you scroll down on Twitter. So that sound combined with the pull is like pulling a lever, a slot machine. And that now, of course, in most casinos, modern casinos, you just punch a button, which I think is a terrible disservice to casinos. I'm not a big gambling or casino guy, but on the rare occasion I go to a casino, what do I want? I want to play slots. I want to pull levers.
It's all touch screens.
I don't want to just sit there and push a button. No fun at all with that. But anyway, that's the type of meticulous research people have done on these apps, on these devices. So, how can we kind of take back control, as we said before? Start by reflecting on our current internet and social media use. For example, as we said, are you spending too much time mindlessly scrolling? There are times when I can say, honestly, yes, I have. Here's one. Do you sleep with your phone always within reach?
This one we talked about with some listeners, and that one might be a little bit less indicative.
Right. If you have an emergency or you have a sick family member, you might want to keep track of your family or friends or whatever. But yes, I do.
It's more excusable for that, I think.
Yeah. Next, set goals for the changes you want to make. These are very good. Here are a few examples. Number one, set a timer for when you'll set the phone down. So say, okay, in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, when that goes off, I'm going to set the phone down and do something productive. All right, that's number one. Number two, turn off notifications. So in other words, when new information comes or whatever, it's not going to bing or ding or whatever. All right. Next one, unfollow certain accounts. Are there certain accounts that tend to draw you in? I'm trying to think about that. I mean, again, I'm totally making excuses. But because of our industry and our jobs, knowing if breaking news is happening or whatever it is, that's like essential to what I do.
Yeah, for me, it's a little bit more. For you, I think that's a pretty legitimate reason. Not necessarily an excuse, but an explanation, But for me, it's absolutely an excuse. Because yes, I'm following news stuff, but that's not what draws me in. It's all of the, this is going to shock you, all of the board game and card game related things that I follow. And then I go on and I'm like, yep, I'm just checking the news. I am not just checking the news. And I can say, oh, it's for my board game of the week. I'm looking at that. And I'm like, well, do I really need to spend that much time on something I do once a week? No.
But you do it anyway.
I'm lying to myself.
But this is the first step, of course, is admitting the truth.
That's true. Pursuing the truth, even if it leads to this.
Inconvenience. Here's another one. Delete or limit apps. Are there apps on our phones that just we don't need them? I'm probably going to say yes. I would say, I probably have like old airline apps or whatever that I don't use anymore, really. I might get like a notification from them or for whatever reason. But yeah, there are certainly apps that I could delete. Also, and this would be hard. This kind of goes back to sleeping with your phone within reach. Sleep with the phone in another room where you can't hear it. All right. Again, when you have parents or other people you are concerned about, I'm not sure whether you want to do that or not.
I think that one really depends on the individual.
Yeah. I think so too. Talk about this. We really are going to talk about it on the other side of the hour because the 1 o'clock news hour is coming up here. Next, keep a journal for 4 weeks of how well you do on your goals. That would really keep me accountable. If I could find the time or take the time to write a journal, that would be very interesting.
If I can offer my own tip on that one, don't do it on your notes app. Do it on a notepad.
Yes. Paper and pencil. Love it. I absolutely love it. And you're absolutely right, Mr. Sommers. All right, we really are breaking from the top of the hour news. Now news, weather, and sports. We'll come back on the other side with a little bit more information on how we can take back control of our devices, our phones, our iPads, whatever. Don't go anywhere. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Banana phone, ring, ring, ring. Boop-a-doop-a-doop-doop-doop.
Andrew in Maine. Sorry, that was loud. I must have bumped it up. Andrew in Maine says, marvelous moves, Mr. Zommers. Maybe you can team up with Calvin to help teach Earl Ingram and Sandy some influencer dance moves. Were we watching the same video? I don't know. Calvin said that he doesn't know if he's a good dancer, but he doesn't really dance a lot. For me, I know I'm not a good dancer. So that would be interesting. Yes, Jeff, we love Banana Phone too. You got to do it. The next hour, half of it, we are going to share an interview we had with John Roach. Unfortunately, there's no video for that. So the first half an hour, we'll still have video. And then the second one is just going to be probably just this the whole time. So we'll make do.
Folks in conservative circles who see him as someone who's being politically persecuted. And so it's something that enables him to continue to get folks to turn out for him.
Navalny's widow, Yulia, says she will continue to fight for her husband and slammed Russian authorities for denying his mother access to the morgue where Navalny's body is believed to be held. The Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry says more than 2,900 Palestinians have been killed in the Israel-Hamas war. This is ABC News.
This is your hometown radio. Refreshed.
keeping you informed, entertained, and connected locally across the Civic Media Network.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Governor Evers signs new legislative district maps into law today over the objections of many of his fellow Democrats. Republicans maintain they won't sue to keep the new Evers maps from going into effect until after this fall's elections.
I don't know what mischievous thing we're doing here. We could sue regardless on anything, but I don't know how you sue when there's not a decision.
Senate Majority Leader Devin LeMahieu on WISN TV's Up Front. Today is President's Day. As a federal holiday, banks, post offices, and other organizations are closed. The holiday was started in 1879 to celebrate George Washington's birthday, but by the late 20th century, Americans have been marking the day to honor all of the nation's presidents. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WMDX News, I'm Nate Wiggyhout. The Dane County Board of Supervisors approved a master planning document for one of the county's largest public parks last Thursday. Indian Lake County Park near Cross Plains holds the namesake Indian Lake, miles of hiking trails, and a historic 19th century chapel, and it's nearly 800 acres. The master plan will help county officials decide on how to improve and preserve the park in the coming years. It calls for expanding the park's skiing and hiking trails, improvements to the dog park, and adding more vehicle parking. Part of Lake Street in downtown Madison is closed this week while construction crews install communication poles and work on the overhead power lines. The southbound lanes of North Lake Street between State Street and University Avenue will be closed until Thursday, the 29th. Northbound traffic will remain open on the road, as will the sidewalks on the west side of the street. And that's what you need to know. I'm Nate Wiggyhout, WMDX News.
This St. Patty's Day, if you want a pot of gold, list your home with the Aaron Weber Group at First Weber.
Excuse me, kind sir, but it's not Paddy's, it's Patty's, as in Patrick.
Wow, yeah, Rico had a cell phone, a flip phone for 7 years before being stuck in a snowstorm, and it ran out of talk minutes, so he had to text, and it was his first time texting. Yeah, I used to have a flip phone, track phone, and I texted on that, and that sucked. Then I got one of those phones with the slide-out keyboard. That was so much better. I still wish I had a physical keyboard on my phone, like a BlackBerry or something, because I don't know. I could type really fast with the physical keyboards on my phone, and I could do it without looking at it. Not that that part was really relevant, because when are you texting somebody and not looking at your phone? But it was really fast, and I just like buttons, so sadness. But
trying to recover after getting blown out.
The other upsides of smartphones are worth that.
The Golden Eagles will host
And the keyboards are much better than they used to be. And autocorrect is better.
Scoring derby, the Bucks Giannis Antetokounmpo and his team from the East won 211 to 186. Here's all he had to say after the game.
Yeah, Rico also says, as my kids grew older, I noticed most of their communicating, even on the flip phone, was done via text, which I found to be a very slow, tedious, and ineffective way of communicating. Yeah, definitely. Doesn't mean that I didn't still do it.
I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot.
And he also says when you communicate verbally, no emoji is needed. You know what they mean. That is true. A lot less room for error, but I don't know. I don't know why we all move to texting so much when it's just less effective. I guess because you can multitask more and everyone's attention spans are shorter and all that good stuff.
Free training and have been able to advance. Now I'm a superintendent.
Now I'm going to have to figure out what that is, what this says on the T9 keyboard.
I'm looking for skilled and experienced carpenters. If you want to join my team with great pay, better benefits, and a chance to advance, apply today. Call 608
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with our producer and engineer, Mr. Aaron Zommers, on the board. It is hour 2 for Monday, President's Day, February 19th, 2024. It is now 6 minutes past the hour of 1 o'clock. Welcome into hour number 2. We are pre-recorded, Mr. Zommers, today because I am helping out the family, helping out Dad with a little cataract surgery. So we are recording this over the weekend for today, Monday. But how the heck are you so far?
Doing well, and I'm glad that you were able to go and help out your dad, because it turns out when you're having eye surgery, navigating by yourself is not really an option.
Right? Yeah. So
at least they don't do them both at the same time.
Exactly. No. And I've had cataract. I've had people say, Todd, you're in your 50s. Well, yeah. I have a long history because of my cleft palate and cleft lip, or my palate more. I have very small eustachian tubes, the tube that goes from your ear down to your throat. And so the drainage is anything at all that gets in there, it plugs it up. So I take fluticasone, the steroid, for your sinuses. Here's a little hot tip for you. Don't overdo that. And I mean, if you're taking it for like a week or whatever, that's fun. But because of my chronic sinus problems, there were like times where it'd be like 1 or 2 months, and I'd take 2 shots of fluticasone twice a day for 2 months.
That's not fun.
For several years. Well, it turns out that steroids, a large amount of steroids, can cause cataracts. And I did not know that. So when I went in, and my optometrist said, my gosh, you're only in your early 50s. And then we started going through my medical history. He goes, oh. And I went to my ophthalmologist, my surgeon, and he said, yeah, steroids can bring on cataracts. So I had to go through double cataract surgery a couple of years ago. So now I have bionic eyes. And they tell you, though, but once you get cataracts again removed, they really can't come back. I didn't know that. So now I can take as much steroids as I want. Had I only known, I would have been taking steroids to pump me up. I wouldn't have been shooting them up my nose. But anyway.
We are going to pump you up.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, just a hot little tip. If you do not have cataracts or haven't had cataract surgery, don't overdo it on the steroids. Anyway, that's your hot tip for today. Coming up a little bit later this hour, I'm going to be talking about tomorrow, of course, Tuesday, is the little-known spring primary in Wisconsin. And you're like, wait a minute, Todd. The spring elections in Wisconsin are in April. And you're right, they are. But there's also spring primaries in Wisconsin, and they happen tomorrow, Tuesday, the 20th of February. Not a lot on the ballot, but what is on the ballot in many communities is imperative. Lots of local school referendums to support public education. Very important you get out and vote in those. And in some cases, things like city council, mayor's races, county board, county executive, primaries for those things, all happening tomorrow. So do your civic duty. Your employer has to give you the time to go vote if it's only during the times that you're working. But make sure you take the time to vote tomorrow. And remember, in Wisconsin, you can register at the polls. Just take along like a gas receipt and a valid photo ID. And you're set to go. Right now, though, we're going to finish up this story we were starting last hour. How long have you gone, or how long have you gone last time you went without using your cell phone for an entire day? And we told you some of the bad news, that these apps on our phones were created to manipulate our brains to get dopamine. And in some cases, like on Twitter, the pull down, scroll down action to refresh is literally based on pulling the arm of a slot machine at a casino. And so it messes with our minds to get us addicted so that we use these apps more often. But there's also good news about reflecting on our use of social media and whether or not we sleep with our devices or not, or close to us. Couple of examples of how we can break the habit: to set a timer for when you'll set the phone down. Number 2, turn off notifications. 3, unfollow certain accounts. 4, delete or limit apps. And we said this one might be a bit controversial because if you have family or whatever, sleep with the phone in another room where you can't hear it. Next, keep a journal for 4 weeks of how well you do with your goals. I mean, I really need to make time to try that because I think I would be shocked at how much, well, maybe how much I break my goals. But I don't know. We'll see. Also, include notes on your feelings when you stick to the goal and when you fall off the wagon. All right, that's good. Addressing our addiction to social media or to other internet technologies is a challenge. If you have to rely, or rather, if you have to really want to adopt healthier consumption habits and realize it'll take time, dedication, and self reflection. Unlike other addictions, no one is saying we need to go cold turkey and stop all online gaming or shopping or close to all social media accounts. And that brings up a good point, right? It isn't just the apps that we get addicted to. How about online shopping? Now, that's one I don't do hardly at all because I'm old school. I'm very tactile anyway. I like to go, particularly for anything clothing related. I want to feel the material. I want to try it on. I want to know before I buy anything.
For clothing, absolutely. But for me, historically, a lot of the things that the whole reason I started trying to do online shopping when I was younger and I'd be like, hey, mom, dad, can I buy this thing? Is because it was stuff I couldn't find in stores.
Well, they're probably because of the pandemic, right?
No, I mean like when I was
Oh,
little.
really young. Oh, really? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's generational, I guess. I didn't have that option when I was growing up. You either had to go to the store or you went without. But I can see that for people your generation. But yeah, I think that's what we haven't talked about yet. How many times do people just, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just looking. I'm just shopping. And you're just scrolling through stuff, you know.
Guilty.
Right. I'm looking for a couple of things for our set that we're going to have up in Hayward this week when we cover the Birkenbeiner up there. And I went on a couple of different like cheaper furniture type places, and I sat there for 20 minutes scrolling through things. I'm like, I could have driven to the store, looked and see if they had it, and be done in the time that it took me to sit here and scroll. So I think online shopping is one that we just don't think about, put it that way. That's as addictive and maybe unhealthy sometimes as using different apps. But anyway, we're not talking about having to go cold turkey and all this stuff, right? Just little by little, poco a poco, as they say in Spanish. It's about learning what is healthy and unhealthy for us personally, right? Everybody's going to have a different level, maybe. Like, again, I know I'm making excuses here, but for someone like me, and to a degree you, who work in news, entertainment, media, it's probably more imperative that we spend more time at least looking at those things. Maybe not some of the other apps, but at least keeping up on news. But
yeah,
I can certainly cut down.
I think the fact that you shouldn't go cold turkey with this is what makes it so hard. Because
right.
It's clear if you smoke cigarettes, that's not good for you.
Right.
Stopping entirely is the best choice. Like that just is true. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Having a cell phone can save your life.
Yeah.
Or just be really convenient. There's a lot of really good things about it. So
Uber, like if you're traveling to the city,
yep.
You just pull out your Uber app and you got a car.
You can contact people who don't live in the same city as you and whatever. Like one of my roommates from college who lives in Michigan right now. I can talk to him.
Yeah. I mean, it can help with loneliness, right? To FaceTime or however you want to do it, to talk to people like that. So yeah, our devices are one of those things that if used for good, it can be fantastic, but it can also kind of drain us emotionally and psychologically as well. Back to this article. And so with some irony, duly noted, the best place to find help for achieving healthy internet consumption is online. Google this: internet addiction disorder. Internet addiction disorder, and also social media addiction. Social media addiction. Google those two things. If you feel your internet use has veered into a destructive compulsion, there's also something called, we get it here for you. I didn't know this was a thing. InternetAddictsAnonymous.org. Huh, all right. InternetAddictsAnonymous.org. ITAA is similar to other 12-step programs, but without requiring abstinence. Well, that's fantastic because I gave that up for Lent. So right there. Participants support one another by setting healthy boundaries for technology usage. Founded in 2017, it now has thousands of members. For most, the goal is not abstinence, but manageability. And I think that's the key there. Manageability, right? Want to manage our internet time, manage our device time, manage our cell phone time, our mobile app time. But it can get certainly addictive to people. So good. Thank you to our crack staff for putting all that together, because that's fantastic. Great reminders. Great way to start off the week, Mr. Sommers.
Absolutely. I think I've started keeping more notes on paper of things I need to do.
Have you?
And it's helped tremendously. And this may be something to add to those notes and lists.
There you go. I like the journal part. I like the suggestion to try to keep a journal. And it's something I need to start. There was a point in my life where I did keep a journal. Did you ever do that?
I started and never made it past one day because because of the way we see journals and diaries and media, where it's like, dear diary, and it's just like writing inane garbage. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? I have nothing. I just like, I went to school today, or like, I had work. I ate food. Like, what? I don't know. But no, I understand it better.
I think you have to kind of like be more vulnerable with yourself and like how you're feeling, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, today was a tough day. I thought about whatever. Today was a great day because I got to talk to this friend and it made me feel that way.
Any of the last times that I tried were years ago, and I was not good at that. So
we all mature, and you're a young dude, so we all mature, move on. We're gonna move on with more subjects here on a Monday, a pre-recorded show. No phone calls today. We'll be back with an all live show tomorrow from beautiful Chippewa Falls, downtown Chippewa Falls. Stay tuned though. More for today on this President's Day, the 19th of February, 2024. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
I wanna I wanna see you peacock. You peacock. You peacock. You peacock. I wanna see you peacock.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. Now 20 past the hour of 1 o'clock and hour number 2 of the show. Great to have you along with us. A little Katy Perry there, Mr. Sommers.
Only her greatest work, Peacock by Katy Perry.
Very good.
Certainly one of the songs of all time.
One of all the songs of all time, that's one of them. We play that every time, or most times, when I mention the Peacock streaming service from NBC. Of course, they call it Peacock because the moniker for years, and I guess to some degree still, Peacock or NBC was called the Peacock Network because the logo for NBC was multicolored. And for a while, they actually used like the feathers of a peacock behind the NBC logo.
Right.
And so they called the Peacock Network. And so they call their streaming service now simply Peacock. And this has gotten under my feathers, has ruffled my feathers, has gotten under my skin because many of the Wisconsin Badger sports events are now only available on the Peacock because the goofballs at the Big Ten have signed these multi-layered television agreements, and now some of the games are only available on Peacock. Of course, the Badgers played over the weekend against Iowa at Iowa City, and boy, what a game it was.
Incredible.
It was incredible. We'll talk about what happened tomorrow because we're recording this on Saturday right before the actual game. But we'll talk about it, you understand. And so over the weekend, this news broke. What I do have is Paramount Plus, the streaming service for CBS. They call it, it's owned by Paramount Global.
Right.
Because Paramount Global owns CBS. And so I have Paramount Plus because I was a big Picard fan. The 3 seasons of Picard, Jean-Luc Picard, the spinoff from Star Trek Next Generation. I wanted to watch that. And so I got myself the Paramount Plus.
And then you just never canceled it?
And I never canceled it. And
Fair enough.
because there's other things on there I kind of enjoy. So I keep her on the Paramount Plus. I also have Apple TV. I have those 2 streaming services. But here now, over the weekend, and this will be of great excitement to many of us, Paramount Plus and Peacock have started talks to merge into a single streaming service, according to a report from the Wall Street Journal. How do you like that, Mr. Summers? The Peacock and the Paramount are going to be merging, and they're going to call it Double P Plus. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Hold on. Let me check the date real quick. Is it April 1st?
Or maybe they're just going to call it PP. PP Plus.
I think that's what they should do.
This is real. The story is real. The report says that Comcast, which owns NBC and Paramount, and the Peacock, Comcast and Paramount Global recently met to look at options to possibly, keyword possibly, merge their respective streaming services into a single offering, among other options that include a joint venture structure. This would bring Paramount's and NBC Universal's content under a single streaming app. Now, this is fascinating to me. Someone, my friends know, as someone who works in media, I am nothing but fascinated by and with media. And this would be, I think it's fascinating, but you're going to have competing networks and programming on the same streaming platform, theoretically. Because you have Paramount, which has CBS, so you have like a lot of the CBS sports stuff on Paramount Plus, and then you have NBC Universal and Peacock, which has, NBC stuff. So you'd have that on the same app, same streaming service? Okay. Article goes on. Details are still thin. No pricing, naming, contrary to my suggestions. No name has been suggested for the joint venture, or other details have been decided at this time. At this time, neither company has made a formal announcement about the talks. Now, here's what's probably driving this. Jack O'Neill likes to say it all comes down to the dollar sign. Paramount Plus had 63 million subscribers at the end of the third quarter of 2023. 63 million.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
That's pretty good. The Peacock recently announced it had hit 31 million subscribers paying for their service. So the Peacock, only about half as good as the Paramount. Some subscribers pay for both, but merging together will help the services compete with larger services like Max and Disney Plus. So that's probably what's driving this whole thing, is that Paramount Plus and Peacock are saying, look, we're getting beat up here by Max and Disney. Why not combine our forces and survive rather than one of us being gobbled up by a couple of the big guys.
That makes sense. Plus, at this point, viewers don't really care who made something, especially because shows with the weird licensing of streaming nowadays, they'll just flop around between all the different services and sometimes be split amongst them. And it's very annoying.
Yeah, people don't care where things come from. They just want to be able to find them.
Right.
And at some point, somebody's going to get a bright idea to just take all the content out there and offer one place that you can pay every month and get all the content. It might be called cable. Everything's circular.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it will come back to that at some point. I'm telling you, it's going to come back to that. Both services, Peacock and Paramount, are still struggling to turn a profit. Paramount Plus is expected to become profitable by the end of 2025. No timeline is known for when Peacock might become profitable. Merging the services could also help reach profitability sooner. This adds another wrinkle to Paramount, which has been in talks with various companies about a deal from Warner Brothers Discovery. And to Byron Allen, he used to just be a comedian, and now he's like a mogul. He owns Allen Media Group, which put in a bid of $30 billion for much of the assets, and also Skydance Media, which reportedly put in a preliminary bid. So there's a big hubbub on whether Paramount Plus is going to be, divided up at some point. So that's the deal. That's where we're at with our Paramount Plus and our Peacock. We'll keep you abreast of the situation as it arises. Coming up next here at the bottom of the hour, we're going to take a half an hour and bring you a great repeat half hour of the fantastic John Roach. Now, we recorded this with John the week before the Super Bowl, so just realize that there'll be Super Bowl talk. You're like, wait a minute, the Super Bowl's done. But do not fear, because there's a lot of other great stuff in here. John Roach, a great author, a great screenwriter, wrote for Madison Magazine for years, wrote for independent papers. He is a Renaissance man, John Roach. So we're going to bring, because, people can only take so much of Todd on a Monday. It is Monday, by the way, the 19th of February. So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back to bring you a half an hour of me talking to the fantastic John Roach from a couple of weeks ago. And then we'll come back with some new content in hour number 3 of the show, because we're on for a third hour yet this week. And then coming up next week, Maggie Dawn will be taking over the 2 to 4 time slot. And we go back to our normal 2, which is fine for us.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Stay tuned. We have John Roach on the other side. You're not going to want to miss it. A great interview with a Renaissance man. Stay with us. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show for Monday, February 19th on the Civic Media Radio Network.
What a tune. What a song. All right. Let's see here.
And that's standard language that has been put in maps in the past by Democrats, Republicans.
Senate Majority Leader Devin LeMahieu on WISN TV's Up Front. The man accused of killing a couple of newlyweds at a bar in Elkhorn is charged with 2 counts of homicide and several other crimes. Witnesses say Thomas Rout stood up at the Sports Page bar on February 1st and fired his gun. The bullets hit and killed Emerson and Gina Weingart. Bail is set at $2 million. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WMDX News, I'm Nate Wiggyhoe. UW-Madison is working to fight both food insecurity among students and food waste in their kitchens all at once. They're starting a number of student-led programs to redirect food waste to student organizations across campus. They'll be able to hand out free meals to hungry students. They're also working on a pilot program that would alert students when free food is available. Food waste is a significant contributor to climate change, creating about 8% of all global greenhouse gas emissions. The group formerly known as Madison Audubon has now settled on its third name in less than a year. They changed their name to Badgerland Bird Alliance last fall to distance themselves from their namesake's problematic history. A Waukesha company called Badgerland Birding objected to the name change shortly after. The conservation group voted earlier this month to once again change their name to the Southern Wisconsin Bird Alliance once and for all. And that's what you need to know. I'm Nate Wiggyhout, WMDX News.
This is Chuck Smith, owner of Current Electric, home of the superheroes. Have you noticed electrical problems in your home or business? Flickering lights, broken breakers, outlets that wiggle and jiggle? Current Electric knows the most important thing is protecting your family, and our heroes are experts at electrical repairs and upgrades. With 8,500 five-star reviews and growing, we answer the call. Go to callcurrent.com. That's callcurrent.com. 262-786-5885. Keep your electricity alive.
I'm Pete with the 60-second Showbiz Beat. Music legend and Beach Boys founder Brian Wilson's health has deteriorated following the death of his wife Melinda, who died at age 77 last month. The New York Post reports that Wilson will be placed under conservatorship. Two family members have been assigned to look after the 81-year-old musical genius. Milwaukee Bucks fans and fans of the Greek Freak are in for a treat today. Giannis, The Marvelous Journey drops tonight on Amazon Prime. The film, directed by 30 for 30 director Kristen Lapis, chronicles the hoop star's humble beginnings in Africa to his family's move to Athens, Greece, and eventually Milwaukee, and follows him all the way through the Bucks' 2021 NBA championship. In case you're wondering, yes, it was hard to write this without saying his last name, which scares me. Antetokounmpo. Satisfied? Break a leg tonight, Giannis. For more showbiz fun, tune into Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, every night between 7 and 9 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Under a mix of sun and clouds today as high temperatures climb mild once again, back into the mid-40s. We'll be bright and beautiful tomorrow and even warmer as highs reach 50 degrees. We even turn the dial up a little higher for Wednesday, too. Right now, it's 41 degrees.
If you only have a 401k, you're not getting the most for retirement.
Wait, what?
Add a Robinhood IRA on top, then they'll boost it by 3%.
You can do that?
And if you transfer in any retirement account, you get 3% on top of that.
Is there a limit to the match?
No limit. Robinhood Gold gets you the...
Hey everybody, it is Monday, February 19th. Going to bring you a little pre-recorded interview with our friend and Renaissance man John Roach right before the Super Bowl, talking not just about that, but also about goals, achieving those, and whatever else is on Mr. Roach's mind. Enjoy it. This is from a couple of weeks ago, right here on the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. Just all-around great guy. Mr. John Roach, he is a writer. He is a screenwriter. I call him a Renaissance man. He's also an entrepreneur. And I said, John, before you came on, I've said this before, you're one of those kind of people that, you know, I could just have a glass of brandy or bourbon or scotch or a cup of coffee and just have a conversation. And that's what I love about you, because of your takes on life. How you been?
Good, Todd. Good. That's high praise. Thank you. I've been good. I just returned from a week up north solo in the Arborvita area where the snowmobile trails have yet to open in Vilas and Oneida County, which is unreal and tragic because of the economic impact for that part of the state. You know, a lot of those small businesses depend on that winter business to put them over the top for profit. And I think it's going to be devastating to the small businesses up there.
Yeah, I was just up in Superior last week covering President Biden being up there, and then did a show in Superior. Then came down to our station WBZH in Hayward and did a show there.
Sure.
And we're planning on going back up for the Birkenbeiner here the third week in February. But they're having real concerns because it starts in Cable and ends in Hayward. They're having real concerns that they're going to have enough snow. Now they can make snow, but if it stays above 40 degrees, what do you do?
Well, the big economic driver in the winter is snowmobilers.
Yeah.
And you can't make snow for the snowmobile trails.
No.
And so it's just tough. Those small restaurants and diners and hotels, it's just, and a lot of those people live right on the edge of the economy anyhow up there. That's what I tell folks down south. I said, you don't really understand how tough it is up north. Every tavern you go into, they're doing a fundraiser for someone who doesn't have health care. The only people up there who have health care work for the state, the county, the municipality, or the local hospital.
Yeah.
And it's just tough. It's very tough, and they have my sympathy. But it was blissful up there, and it was wonderfully warm. There was standing water on our lake, which you don't see in the middle of January up there very often. And it's even perhaps, those are Vilas and Oneida counties are pretty red counties.
Right.
But I think it's actually giving some of them pause to consider that climate change may not be a hoax.
Really, you kind of hear that going to a fish fry or whatever. You hear people kind of talking about this. Well, geez, maybe there's something to this climate change.
Right. Now you can, you can't take 1 year as a sample and say, oh,
sure.
Because then, the inverse is, oh, it's really cold and snowy this year, so climate change isn't real. You have to look at the long haul and, the continuing, the world becoming hotter.
Mm-hmm.
But, for old timers up there, the amount of snow they've gotten up north has lessened through the years. The winters have been warmer.
Mm-hmm.
And this makes me worry about dry conditions for the summer up there.
Yeah, I just saw
lake levels will be down and the woods will be dry. That's not a good thing.
No, I just saw the forecast for the next month. And of course, these things change, but the estimates that scientists are saying above normal temperatures, below normal precipitation. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully not for our ag producers and other people, but it could be a tough year in terms of drought conditions if we don't get some moisture. I know, going back to Richland County, we had our family farm, and even still, whether even taking a walk at Picnic Point here in Madison, in your old stomping grounds at UW-Madison, to me, John Roach, the winter is a magical time, particularly when we do have snow, because it's just this silence, this quiet. And I find it extraordinarily meditative. As a writer, do you find that ideas, things come to you easier in that climate, or are your ideas not attached to the climate that you're in?
No, absolutely. Look, the way I wrote my column or screenplays, I'm a believer in writing ritual. My ritual was 2 cups of coffee, and at 7 I'd start writing, and I'd quit at noon. It's 5 hours straight is about as best as you can do.
Mm-hmm.
It always helps me if I have a vista where I look up from the laptop and I just stare out at a beautiful vista, because it becomes a tapestry upon which things can play out. And when you're really in the groove writing, you lose track of time. You are in the story you're writing. It's like being in Vegas where there's no sense of passage of time. There's no windows. You just get in that zone, and it's really productive. And I think there's ritual to that. My wife gave me a beautiful book about 20 years ago called Writers and Their Places. And it was just pictures of the writing rooms or areas for all of the greatest contemporary American writers. And then just a little paragraph about what they did to get in the zone.
Wow.
And it's really fascinating. But yeah, so here's the thing about the winter. There's no one up there.
Right.
I love solitude. When I built our cabin, when we built our little cabin, I found an Esquire magazine article, and this was just at the advent of cable news. The internet hadn't even blown up. But he wrote this piece for Esquire, which was a magazine at the time, doesn't exist anymore, just like Sports Illustrated, where he said the 3 rarest commodities in the modern world are silence, solitude, and darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And I have all 3 up north during the winter. It's quiet, it's silent, and it's, there's no ambient light, there's no light pollution. You can go out on a moonless night and almost read a book by starlight.
Wow.
On one of those crystal cold nights. So, no, I love it up there. It's blissful.
It's one of those things, I think, living in Wisconsin too often that we take for granted, at least I do, and just realizing that even if we live in a city, you don't have to drive all that far to be in the environment that you just described. And that's not the case in a lot of places across the country.
Right. And so let's be honest, winter makes you tougher.
Exactly. I believe
there are
that.
a lot of people who don't split wood and put wood up, and they just flee cold temperatures. Winters make for hardy stock. And I think it's part of the Wisconsin personality, Minnesota as well.
Where's Leo Chanel from? He played for the Badgers, and now he's with Kansas City. And was it the AFC Championship or the game? No, the game before in Kansas City where it was below zero. And there's a picture of him. He shows up at the game in shorts.
Right.
And he's like, hey, in Wisconsin, in northern Wisconsin, where he's from, there's nothing.
This is like the last game of my high school team in November.
Right.
So yeah, Todd, one thing I've always thought too is that the 4 distinct seasons of Wisconsin help you keep track of your life. It makes you more aware of the passing of time. Mm-hmm. I've always said there's a reason women in grandmothers in Los Angeles dress like they're teenagers. They don't know their grandmothers because there are no seasons in Los Angeles. They're not aware that time is passing. And so they're dressed in embarrassing fashion. But here in Wisconsin, we know when fall passes to winter to spring to summer. And, each one is a notch in your own personal life's calendar. And, I like it. I'm always tickled by the first snow.
Oh, me
and
too.
I love big snowfalls. I just love them.
Yep, me too. So we brought up the Super Bowl kind of tangentially there. I want to get your take. We spent 2 hours talking about this yesterday, and I want your take on this, John Roach, as a person who loves sports, who is a guy of all kinds of knowledge here. What do you make of this? You've been around a few more years than I have. I just think that Taylor Swift is a young person, a young woman, who, for me, embodies, hey, I'm a woman. I'm not going to let misogynistic men in my industry. I mean, you've worked in film and in Hollywood, dominated by men. And this is a young woman that said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm taking my songs back. I'm going to do it my way. She's a billionaire, probably arguably the biggest pop star right now in the world. She signed up 40+ thousand people to vote, didn't ask their party, just said go and vote, predominantly young people. And these white, angry Republican men are calling her the Antichrist and making up all kinds of crap about her with her and Travis Kelce. What say you, John Roach?
Well, the radical right males are always afraid of powerful women. They loathed Hillary Clinton, they loathed Michelle Obama, and again, I make this distinction: the radical right Republicans, and they're weak men. Okay, they're weak men, and they find comfort in Donald Trump. The one quote is, Donald Trump is a weak man's idea of a strong man. A poor man's idea of a rich man. And there's a third to the trilogy. But so this is no surprise. The fact that Jesse Waters at Fox whipped up a conspiracy theory about it is laughable. I mean, it's like the end stage of right-wing conspiracy theories when somehow you think that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift and the Democrats have managed to pull off a conspiracy to have Kansas City in the Super Bowl. And in the same breath, they say that Joe Biden has dementia. It's like, well, it's one thing or the other, right? Either the Democrats are incompetent or they're masterminds. Make up your mind. The other thing is, how can a Republican rip one of the most successful capitalists in America this year,
right?
Taylor Swift? She put on a tour de force of capitalism this year. And remember, as an artist, artists contribute. Every artist is an entrepreneur. Okay, and what she is self-made. She comes from humble means, and through dint of talent and sheer hard work and struggle, she's made herself one of the most successful artists in the world. And she worked her buns off this year.
Yeah.
She's a hard worker. She's a much harder worker than a lot of those radical right guys who are ripping her. That's for damn sure.
Totally agree.
And by the way, you know, I don't know how real their romance is. I mean, I think it's a real romance. I don't know how long it's going to go, you know?
Right.
But I think there's something sweet about it. And I also think it's amazing that the NFL has managed to capture the one demo they didn't have.
Right.
Young teenage girls.
Right.
And Taylor Swift has brought them that. So that makes them a marketing juggernaut even further. And also I found myself thinking about this issue of all these guys who are, you know, don't like seeing shots of Taylor Swift, which is like, man, you got to lighten your ass up.
Right.
But here's what I really think. If this was modern day, if the Joe DiMaggio Marilyn Monroe romance had taken place during the era of modern media, they would have had a picture of Marilyn Monroe, a shot of Marilyn Monroe up at every single Yankee game, every time she showed up.
Absolutely.
There's no question about it. And by the way, if the Beatles showed up at a football game, they'd have shots of them as well.
Right.
You know, hell, they had shots of Chris Christie in Jerry Jones' box, for God's sake.
How about Matthew McConaughey? Right. All right.
Yeah,
Every
right.
Texas
At
game.
the Texas games.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, look, these are sad men, Todd. They're weak men and sad men. And also let's not kid ourselves. The NFL is entertainment. Taylor Swift is entertainment. It is distraction. It's what we do so we don't have to look at our own sad lives. Okay? And God knows the NFL is wonderful because it takes place in the winter where you can't even go outside. So I just think this is laughable. But the most laughable thing was this Jesse Water, which, by the way, if you saw his quote, he qualified it so as not to be sued.
Right.
He said, no, I don't know. I don't have any facts to prove this, but here's my lame brain conspiracy. And I laughed at that because, Fox News was found liable for $780 million in the election machine lawsuit. Yeah. And so he put a big, blunt disclaimer that effectively said, I'm stupid and I have no facts, but here's my theory. Which is like, okay, that makes it even more comical.
Right. No, I think Taylor Swift is fantastic. And of course, our very own from Wisconsin, Pewaukee, is J.J. Watt, who's now, of course, retired from the NFL and a commentator on CBS. I think he was on ESPN, and he said, Taylor Swift is the biggest star in the world. Get over it. So, good
Also,
for J.J. Watt.
Todd, they're a beautiful couple. She's a beautiful woman. He's a handsome guy. It's two young people at the crescendos of their careers, and they found someone to share it with, at least in the near term. I'm not betting that it's a marriage or anything. Really famous people have a real hard time with marriages sometimes. But it's certainly a wonderful distraction.
We'll come back and get John's prediction for the Super Bowl. Also talk Badger basketball. Don't go anywhere. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show with John Roach on the Civic Media Radio Network.
So Sherry's asking where the video is on Facebook. For this part, unfortunately, we don't have the video. That's my bad on there. Rico says, well said, Mr. Roach. Bullseye knocked it completely out of the park. I agree. We'll have a little bit more with John Roach. And then for our third hour, the video will be back because we'll be live again. We'll take Todd out of the basement. No, he's on the road. Well, I hope he's not still on the road. No, he's not. He texted me. We're good.
everybody. It is Monday, February 19th. We're going to bring you a little pre-recorded interview with our friend and Renaissance man, John Roach, right before the Super Bowl, talking not just about that, but also about goals, achieving those, and whatever else is on Mr. Roach's mind. Enjoy it. This is from a couple of weeks ago, right here on the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
These are the weirdest times, Todd.
Yeah.
And I personally think, and again, I qualify this, the far-right Trumpist sect and Donald Trump himself, I view them as an existential threat to our democracy.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it in my 70 years, and I don't think it's anything to be taken lightly.
Yeah, totally agree. Let's flip the page just a little bit and go to first of all, I want to get your prediction because I talked about it on the other side. Super Bowl,
Sure.
The 49ers and the Chiefs. What say you, John Roach?
I like the Chiefs. Brock Purdy has had a wonderful run, but I think there's a lot to be said for you look at your quarterbacks and bet on the best quarterback, and Patrick Mahomes is clearly the best quarterback. I also think that Andy Reid's going to outcoach the 49ers coach. The 49ers are young, and they're talented, but I think Kansas City is in a groove. I love Pacheco, their running back. I love Valdez Scantling is going to drop a big pass. I'll tell you that right now.
But he caught one in the championship.
Yeah, you shouldn't celebrate when you catch one pass as a pro. But also, I think that the Chiefs' defense has improved.
Yes.
And I just think they're a team on the uptick. The Packers could have beat the 49ers had two plays gone the other way.
I was going to say,
I think it's going to be the Chiefs.
I think the Packers and, quite frankly, the Lions exposed that the 49ers defense has some problems. And Chris the Bear Felica used to be from
You can
ESPN.
run on him for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he used to be with ESPN. Now I think he's with NBC. Chris Felica. He tweeted at the beginning of the game against the Detroit Lions. He said, "Wow, the 49ers defense is kind of stinky." And then a few minutes later, he tweeted out and said, "Check that. The 49ers defense is terrible." And again, just like the Packers, I think Detroit could have and maybe should have won that game against the 49ers.
Right. Well, the Lions coach lived by the sword and died by the sword, going for it on fourth down. But here's the thing. I really like rooting for the Chiefs. I think they're an immensely entertaining team to watch. Patrick Mahomes is a freak. Mm. Next to Aaron Rodgers, he was the most interesting quarterback to watch in the last 5 years.
Yep.
He's creative. He's immensely talented physically. He's got a great arm, and he's the perfect quarterback for Andy Reid's system.
Totally agree. Let's move closer to Wisconsin, your alma mater. The Wisconsin Badgers have a big game tonight down in Nebraska. One of our viewers and listeners says he's a Nebraska fan. He thinks that the Cornhuskers are going to knock off the Badgers tonight. Wisconsin sits atop of the Big Ten right now at 16-14 overall, 8-1 in the Big Ten. Cornhuskers not doing poorly, 15-6 overall, 5-5 in the conference, but they are undefeated, John Roach, at home. Number 6, Wisconsin takes on Nebraska. What say you?
I think in the Big Ten this year, every home team is the favorite. Winning on the road in the Big Ten is very difficult. Nebraska reminds me a lot of Northwestern, where they're just, a traditionally moribund program that's on the uptick. It would not be a shocker if they knocked off the Badgers. But for all the people talking smack about the Cornhuskers, I would just note that the Badgers have only one loss in the Big Ten and are on top of the league, and they're ranked 6th in the nation. The Cornhuskers aren't. So I wouldn't get too far out over your skis. And I would also remind you how the Cornhuskers have fared in football since they joined the Big Ten. I always loved the Cornhuskers in the Big. I was at the first Nebraska-Wisconsin game when Nebraska played their first Big Ten football game in the league, and I went to that game and I was really happy because I looked around. I said, "Oh my God! Thank God we are no longer the fattest people dressed in red in the Big Ten." With the addition of Nebraska. God bless the Cornhuskers.
And I had a lot of hope because this will be the Barry Alvarez connection and everything. It's going to be a great rivalry, but you can't have a rivalry if only one team basically wins all the time.
Yeah. But going back to basketball, it's really easy to be happy for Greg Gard.
Yes.
And I did something today that I do every once in a while. I went back 1 year on Facebook and trolled a couple basketball threads where everyone was calling for Greg Gard's head, including a blog post that Dave Cheslevich did last year saying fire Greg Gard. And I just said, Your Honor, this blog post has not aged well.
Of course, Dave Cheslevich, Mayor Dave, former mayor of Madison.
Right, former Mayor Madison, good guy.
Yeah.
I like his blogs. He's kind of become wonderfully curmudgeonly in his dotage, which I kind of like. And he's not predictably liberal.
Right.
But he said, it's time to let go of Greg Gard. But Greg Gard is a sneaky good coach, always has been, very easy to underestimate. But look what he has done back to back, probably two of the best portal transfer between Klesmit and Storr.
Right.
He could have the MVP of the Big Ten and the freshman of the year in the Big Ten with Storr and Blackwell. A lot of games to be played yet.
Yep.
But he has the deepest team Wisconsin's seen in a long time. They play a more open brand of basketball because he has the horses to do it now. And it's really, Greg is an easy guy to be happy for.
Yes, he's a great guy. He went to school at Platteville the same time I did, and then it was his first year being a student assistant under Bo Ryan at Platteville. I know you've spoken with former Coach Ryan. He's a great guy. I remember at the beginning of this season, Coach Ryan said, this team's going to be good. No, really good. He doesn't say stuff like that very often.
Well, you know why? Because Bo goes to the early practices, and he saw AJ Storr in practice. That's why he said that. Because AJ Storr has skills, and he's not even done developing, Todd. He's going to get so much better in another year or two under the Wisconsin system. I know the NBA scouts are already showing up.
Yep.
He's got some raw skills. I think he needs to refine a little bit. But, man, he is exciting.
You can hear the Wisconsin Badger basketball game across the Civic Media Radio Network and on the Civic Media app. Tip-off time, 7:30 from Lincoln tonight. Matt LePay, of course, on the call. You can hear it across the Civic Media Network, or just go to the Civic Media app and click on WRCE, News from the Center in Richland Center. It is free, the Civic Media app. John Roach, these conversations are free, but it always fills my heart and soul. Thank you so much for taking the time with us today. Really appreciate it, my friend.
Thanks, Todd.
Always a pleasure,
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, John. Until then, this is Todd Allbaugh saying, whatever you're fighting for, keep banging your drum. Aaron Zommers.
Todd Allbaugh.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, why can't I hear myself? There we go. All right, that's weird. All right. Are we recording right now?
Or we're live, yeah.
Oh, we're live. All right. All right. Were you on that last meeting, by the way?
No, because I was here running the show.
Well, you didn't miss anything. Let me tell you that much.
All right. That was my guess, just based on the fact that it was scheduled during when our show is supposed to be on air.
I picked a bad week to stop drinking, folks.
What about sniffing glue?
That too. The sun has come out here in Shawnee, Wisconsin.
ABC News, I'm Daria Albinger. The UN Security Council is expected to vote this week
I'll
on a
be
resolution
right
calling for an
All right,
immediate
thank you.
humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. Supporters today at a ceasefire rally in New Jersey.
We see the death. We see the destruction. We see little children being carried out. And I can't understand how anyone of good faith could stand and not be convicted by what they see.
Pastor Barry Graham at Canaan Baptist Church of Patterson. President Biden is blaming Congress for Russia's capture of an eastern Ukrainian city, warning more could follow without additional aid to Ukraine. Lawmakers are on recess. They have not yet sent the president a bill on foreign aid for Israel or Ukraine. A suspect is in custody in Colorado Springs in connection with the double fatal shooting. 2 people found in a dorm room at the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. This is ABC News.
Civic Media News, I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Wisconsin has new legislative district maps that undo Republican gerrymanders going back more than a decade.
And so, yeah, as far as clips, we have the one you sent of Evers.
Yep.
We've got the 60 Minutes one, the one that we played the other day, if you want that again.
Okay. All right.
And then the other 60 Minutes stuff, we've got Andrew Hitt with his message for Donald Trump. We've got Andrew Hitt saying whenever anybody sees our text messages, they know that we're tricked.
Okay, yeah.
We've got him saying, Anderson Cooper asking him why he said it's just nuts in the email. We've got him saying he's not comfortable with throwing out the votes for 2 counties. And then we have the other one that you texted about with the woman.
All right.
Whose name I don't recall because I didn't watch the whole thing.
Yeah, I forgot to.
There is no known danger to the public, though Middleton police did advise residents near the home to shelter in place for a short period. No further details have been released while police investigate, and anyone with information is encouraged to contact Madison Area Crime Stoppers. The Dane County Board of Supervisors approved a master planning document for one of the county's largest public parks last Thursday. Indian Lake County Park near Cross Plains holds its namesake Indian Lake, miles of hiking trails, and a historic 19th century chapel in its nearly 800 acres. The master plan will help county officials decide on how to improve and preserve the park in the coming years. And that's what you need to know. I'm Nate Wuggyhout, WMDX News.
I joined the Carpenters Union 15 years ago as an apprentice, got free training, and have been able to advance. Now I'm a superintendent, running high-profile projects in Madison that change the city's skyline. I'm looking for skilled and experienced carpenters. If you want to join my team with great pay, better benefits, and a chance to advance, apply today. Call 608-240-0314 and press 0 to apply. That's 608.
Hey, thanks, Paparico. Yep, he's recuperating in the other room.
And press 0.
Baseball brewing in Arizona. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Veteran
Also,
players
Andrew
arriving
Main
in
got a little
Maryville
too close
as
to the
Brewers
truth
spring
earlier.
Training gets underway. Their first game is Saturday. The Brewers' new first baseman, Reese Hoskins' reaction to the team trading Corbin Burns away to the Orioles.
As Ross Perot said, like the crazy ant locked in the basement.
Lose a bona fide ace in this game. You know, you're bummed.
Test 1, 2.
But
Test 1,
everybody
2.
within the organization was up front. Like, I was surprised that it was happening.
What are you testing?
I don't know. Just my levels seem a little off in my earphones, but maybe it's just me.
Won in a matchup with lots
I don't know.
of shooting, but no defense. 211 to 186. Damian Lillard named MVP. Asked about how tough the transition is coming to Milwaukee from Portland. He's going through a divorce and child custody battle.
It's been tougher than I thought it would be. The team changes.
Oh, can you have time dial up a little Stars and Stripes Forever? John Philip Sousa.
For the beginning?
Yeah, just after we do the open, let's go right into some Stars and Stripes. Da, 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 da.
I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot.
Sounds
Under a mix of
good.
sun and clouds today,
Because it's a celebration. We have fair maps.
mild once again, back into the mid-40s. We'll be bright and beautiful tomorrow and even warmer as highs reach 50 degrees. We even turn the dial up a little higher for Wednesday, too. It's 43 degrees at our studios.
The Todd Allbaugh Show.
You look at Taylor Swift, she fought off the bitterness of defeat when she lost her records, when she was kind of duped by a manager. People who told her she'd never amount to anything. But it doesn't matter if you like her music or not.
All right, 30 seconds.
Thank you. Dankeschön, as they say.
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. Live from Shawano, Wisconsin, I'm Todd Allbaugh, longtime producer and engineer, the fantastic Mr. Zommers down at the world headquarters in Madison. It is Monday, the 19th of February. It's celebration time, a special live report on this historic day. Thanks to you, we have fair maps in the state of Wisconsin. Good afternoon, everybody. Great to be with you. A couple of pre-recorded hours prior. Had planned on taking actually the entire day off here in Shawano as Dad had a little cataract surgery this morning. I can report he's resting comfortably on the other side of the door there, doing well. But I talked to Mr. Zommers, and this breaking news, we had to go live. So we've set up the equipment on the back porch here of Dad and Mom's house here in Shawano, Wisconsin, and we're coming to you live. Mr. Zommers, a pleasant good afternoon on Fair Maps Monday.
Yeah, good afternoon to you too. It was a nice thing to wake up and see this morning.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I was up at the crack of dawn, let me tell you. Had to be at Appleton.
I don't actually know what time.
By 7:30. Yeah, had to be and I was down in Appleton this morning, but to Appleton and back to Shawano already today. And on the way back, I saw this great news that Governor Tony Evers has signed into legislation the maps that he had drawn. And of course, the Republican legislature passed it last week. But it was, and again, I want to celebrate our listeners, the voters of Wisconsin, thanks to you putting the pressure on. We have fair maps in the state of Wisconsin. Absolutely. Give yourselves a round of applause. It's great to be with you all this afternoon. Two big stories we want to talk about this hour and invite your phone calls. 844-967-2789, 844-967-2789. Going to talk first of all about Governor Tony Evers signing the fair maps into legislation. And later on this hour, we're going to talk about the hit job that was 60 Minutes last night. Andrew Hitt, the immediate past chairman of the Wisconsin Republican Party, going on 60 Minutes, talking to Anderson Cooper last night, claiming that he was duped, he was tricked. And again, we'll get into this later, but completely self-aggrandizing, in my opinion. We'll talk about the hit job that was 60 Minutes a little bit later. But first of all, this breaking news today. This, according to WisPolitics now, and if you haven't signed up, go to WisPolitics and sign up. Great news source, one of several here in the state of Wisconsin. Democrat Governor Tony Evers today signed his legislative maps, which were approved by Republican lawmakers, despite concern from Democrats that they could be challenged in federal court. Evers had previously pledged to sign his maps if Republicans sent them to him with no changes. During a ceremony in his conference room, Evers said that the maps before him were his, quote, nothing more and nothing less. He went on to say, quote, to me, the decision to enact these maps boils down to this. I made a promise to the people of Wisconsin, and I would always try to do the right thing. Keeping that promise to me matters most, even if members of my own party disagree with me, unquote. This is what we were talking about last week. And I remember I said, look, believe me, Governor Evers' staff ain't calling me for advice. But I said, if I were advising Governor Evers, I would tell him to sign the maps. Why do you say that, Todd? Because, number one, I think it's the right thing to do for the people of Wisconsin. The people of Wisconsin, including great organizations like Fair Maps Wisconsin, Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, League of Women Voters, they have been organizing people for years to try to get this done. It was because the voters of Wisconsin went to the polls and elected Janet Protasewicz to the Supreme Court that forced Republicans to finally come to the table, not even come to the table, but go on the floor of the legislature and last week vote for fair maps. Big money couldn't get it done. Dark money couldn't get it done. Politicians couldn't get it done. The people that got it done were the voters of Wisconsin. And quite frankly, Governor Evers being willing to say, look, I realize that some people in my own party might not agree with me, but I'm going to keep my word to the people of Wisconsin. And also he's doing what I said last week. I said, if I were him, I'd have a big old ceremony and travel around and talk about it. He started out in Madison. Last I saw, he was in Hudson, up just the other side of the Mississippi River, across from the Twin Cities. And later on today, I understand he's going down to Milwaukee. This is exactly the right move. Here's the other thing politically. To me, this says that Tony Evers has not ruled out running for a third term. 3-term Tony, they're saying. Because by signing these maps, he is preserving his political future to run for office again. But it also is just the right thing to do. People in the state of Wisconsin want to get something done. And today, Tony Evers got something done. Now, look, if the Republican-leaning organizations file a lawsuit down the road on this, which they might, I'm not saying they won't, that's on them. It will be crystal clear because those organizations, by the way, will not file a lawsuit without Robin Voss and Devin LeMahieu and Brian Schimming okaying it. So if there's a lawsuit filed to delay this thing, that's coming from Republicans. It'll be crystal clear. It's the right thing to do as far as the legislation. It's the right thing to do politically. It's the right thing to do for the people of Wisconsin. Tony Evers hits a home run today. That's my opinion. 844-967-2789. 844-967-2789 on Fair Maps Monday. What say you? We go to Stephen in Green Bay. Stephen, thanks for calling. What say you?
First of all, it's my surprise to hear you live today. So welcome from.
It's a special day. We had to come on.
With that being said, Todd, I don't know. I don't feel very excited about this. And
why not, Stephen? Why not?
I just feel like there's going to be something that happens on the back burner that screws this thing all up. And I've always believed if it sounds too good to be true, it is. And this sounds too good to be true. So I guess I'll believe it when I see it this November. With that being said, also, I don't know if you watched Face the Nation yesterday morning, but
I watched
CBS
parts of it. Yes,
really going down the tubes as a media company when it comes to interviewing people. They were just getting ran all over yesterday. I actually had to shut it off because these Republicans were coming on basically saying whatever they wanted to say with little to no questioning on Face the Nation yesterday morning, and it was just appalling. So thank you, Todd.
I appreciate it, Stephen. Always appreciate the call in Green Bay. Look, I get it that some people, particularly on the Democratic side, are going to be disappointed in this because there is this line of thinking out there that a Republican-friendly leaning group could file a lawsuit on the maps that just got signed by Tony Evers, and there will be a delay, and that a court could theoretically say, well, while this is all being appealed, you have to use the current maps to run in November, and the Republicans essentially get another kick at the can on the current maps. But remember, the Wisconsin Supreme Court has already ruled that the current maps are unconstitutional. And again, if Tony Evers vetoes his own maps, which he said publicly that he would sign, it's committing political suicide. I mean, it would be George H.W. Bush, read my lips, no new taxes all over again. And also to the people of Wisconsin, the average citizen who doesn't follow this stuff like we do 24/7 is going to say, come on now, Governor, you said you'd sign this. You're going to veto your own maps. You're as much of a political games player as anybody else. So this is easy to understand. It's the right thing to do. And if Republicans muck it up, That's on them. 844-967-2789. 844-967-2789. Let's go back to the phone lines. Jack in Merrimack. Jack, thanks for calling in. What say you?
Well, first of all, Todd, there's no question that you and I almost single-handedly or dual-handedly, as the case may be, caused these fair maps to come into being. Because for 4 years, I've had sitting out on my front lawn a fair map sign. So between you and I, we did it.
Well, I would say you and the other Wisconsinites. I'm just here to help give people a voice, but it's people like you, Jack, who really got this done.
However, secondly, I am going to say I trust the Republicans about as far as I can throw the state capitol building. My personal guess is that, Voss and LeMahieu and that whole crew, they're going to deny any involvement. But like you said, their approval is going to be necessary, I would expect. But even if not, I'd be very surprised if somebody like Will or another right-wing extremist group went to federal court, pushed it up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, which we know is pretty corrupt, simply said, "Oh, gee, we need to look at this for a while. This is a different situation, so you're going to have to keep those maps, and these creeps will be in our state legislature for another 2 years." I'm hoping I'm wrong, but as the saying goes, hope for the best, but plan for the worst. And I would be very surprised if this didn't happen. But I'm glad there's at least something in place. I still think the best choice would have been for him to veto the map and the state Supreme Court to say, okay, we have 4 different versions of fair maps submitted already. We're going to choose one of those. That way there would be no appeal.
No, I get it, Jack, and I appreciate the call as always, Jack at Merrimack. Really appreciate the call. Look, I agree. I belonged to the Republican Party for 30 years and left in 2011. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him either. I totally get that. But I think Governor Evers did the right thing today. The people of Wisconsin are the winners. Back with more after this. We are live on Monday, February 19th. More of your calls on the other side. Don't go anywhere. It's the Allbaugh Show for a Fair Maps Monday on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Cindy hung up. I'll let you know if she hops back on.
All right, thank you. Wherever it may lead, and having fun doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show for Monday, February 19th. We are live here in hour number 3 on a Fair Maps Monday. Glad to have you along here on the Todd Allbaugh Show, live from Shawano, Wisconsin. Right now, we are sitting here on the back of the parents' porch back here in beautiful Shawano, and was not planning on going live today. Was helping out with Dad's cataract surgery. He's recuperating in the living room behind me here, doing fine, thank you very much. But there's big news today, particularly from Tony Evers, who signed the maps that he drew, or the staff did. He submitted to the Supreme Court, signed them into
law today, this morning, a couple of hours ago, after the Republican legislature passed the maps last week. Asking what your thoughts are. 844-967-2789. 844-967-2789. Sherry.
Yeah, in
Go ahead,
response to
Mr.
a couple of the calls that we got most recently expressing some doubts, Sherry says, if we all thought it would work, if we keep thinking positive thoughts, maybe we'll get somewhere.
Well, and I it's a fair comment. Look, I don't misinterpret my happiness, my joy for for complete belief in the Republican Party. I don't. I used to belong to it. Left in 2011. I agree with Jack and others. I don't trust the Republicans either. But I think that if Tony Evers would have vetoed his own maps, A, it would have been political suicide for Evers, and B, I think that most Wisconsinites who don't follow this on the daily would have said, what's the matter? The guy vetoed his own maps. He's a politician just like everybody else. To explain this possible, I don't necessarily call it a conspiracy theory, but to try to get people to say, here's something that we have no tangible proof of, but we believe it's going to happen, so that's why we're vetoing our own maps. That's a hard sell to the average voter, all right? It's a much easier sell to say, look, I'm signing into law the fair maps that you, the voters, forced to happen. And if there's a lawsuit that mucks this up, that's the Republicans. And once again, they're proving they're really not serious. It may, sure, if all these theories pan out, it may delay, could possibly, I'm not an attorney, delay the maps for another cycle. I personally don't think that'll happen because the Wisconsin Supreme Court has already ruled that the current maps are unconstitutional. But I'm with Tony Evers. And also, quite frankly, isn't it refreshing to have a governor who's not far left or far right, but keeps his word? Here's a governor who said, I'm for the people of Wisconsin, I'm for fair maps. And he went on the record and he said, if the Republicans pass these, I will sign them. And here's a guy who kept his word. Isn't that refreshing for once? Think about this. Compare Tony Evers, a guy who keeps his word, with the last goofball that was there, Walker, who never mentioned Act 10 until he got in. And then we all know what happened to Act 10, divided the state. I'm proud and happy to have a governor like Tony Evers who keeps his word, whose word to the voters of Wisconsin who got these fair maps done. 844-967-2789, 844-967-2789. Gene in Eau Claire. Gene, thanks for calling in. I'm going to be over in your neck of the woods tomorrow, as a matter of fact. What say you?
Well, thank you so much for covering this subject, and I applaud Tony Evers. That's what we got. That's what we get. But you know what? We vote out all those Republicans who still haven't been held accountable for, trying to send in the fake elector votes and things like that, and that still continue to not do their job and make six-figure salaries. Boy, we need more people out there that really are serious and want to do something with our state and get in and run for those elected offices, because I'm sure there's a lot of really great talents with good ideas where we can get a functioning government back again, where they actually work and they actually hold hearings and they actually debate like real human beings used to years ago. But I do want to know one quick thing, because I turned in late. And is Will contesting this?
Not yet that we know of. That is one, like one of our callers brought up. So that's one theory out there. That was the theory for people who wanted the governor to veto it, saying that Will or another right-leaning friendly group could file a lawsuit to delay this. And again, the Republicans would try to wash their hands, saying, well, it wasn't us. We said we weren't going to contest it, and we haven't. But everyone knows, Gene, I think you'd agree, if Will or anybody else on the right files a lawsuit, that is only with the condoning by by Voss or LeMahieu or Brian Schimming.
Then it was a fraud deal here then, so they knew they were going to do it because Will works for the Republican Party. So I've followed Will for years. They're a scary group, and people, when you see that, get your flags a-flying. Those red flags should be flying all over the air. So thank you again, Todd. I really appreciate it. Great work. Thank you. Bye-bye.
We appreciate you, Gene. Thank you so very much. I should have set up a coffee date with Gene. I'll be over in Chippewa Falls, broadcasting there from our WCFW studios tomorrow. Let's go quickly to the phone lines. Luann Bird is on the line. Luann, I saw your tweet earlier today. We just got a couple of minutes before the break, but it's all yours. Go ahead. What's you?
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. It's good news for our state and for the voters to be able to choose their own. And, of course, I was keeping an eye on my district where I ran last time and narrowly lost. So the new map looked great for me, where they put me in a district that I've run in before. It cuts out my former opponent, Bob Donovan, who says he will move into it. But I just want to tell you, Todd, it feels great to have fair maps to begin with. And it also feels great to possibly be running this time, not just to protect the governor's veto, but to possibly flip the state. So it's a great day for Wisconsin, isn't it?
Look, it is, Luann. And answer me this, if you would be so kind. I mean, to your point, in the district that you are running in, it makes it a more centrist district, so that people are less apt, at least, to run to the left or the right. They have to try to get more of that middle voter, correct?
It totally does. It came out 50-50 this time. It does. It's going to,
in the new
every
map.
vote's
In the new
gonna
map.
matter, and the people are in the new map. Yes, and technically it's an open seat because it didn't pit any incumbents in it.
Sure.
And pretty much all of Greendale, pretty much Greenfield. I feel like they're my friends.
Sure.
It
Well, always
feels good. All of Hales Corners. My friends.
appreciate your calling in, Luann. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for listening. As always, have a wonderful day there, and congrats on the new maps. 844-967-2789, 844-967-2789. And Luann gets to the heart of this, that by what you, the voters of Wisconsin, have done, forcing Republicans to approve these maps last week, and by Governor Evers signing them into law today, it makes more districts across the state more centrist. It means that to Luann's point, in the district she's going to run in, it's about a 50-50 split. And that's what people in Wisconsin have wanted for so long. They said, we don't want Republican maps. We don't want Democratic maps. We want fair maps. And the maps that got signed into law, which, by the way, were approved in a bipartisan vote last week, are now the law of the land. It is fair maps Monday. Back after this. Don't go anywhere. The Todd Allbaugh Show on a Monday on Civic Media.
Sorry about that. I was
No,
taking
that's fine.
a
That was good.
phone call there.
Okay, that's fine. No worries. Have we got anybody waiting right now?
No.
All right, cool.
We can play that audio of Evers.
Yeah, we'll do that when we come back. I want to get the phone calls. Yeah, we'll do that when we come back.
This
Right.
is Chuck Smith,
Sounds
owner
good.
of Current Electric, home of the superheroes. Have you noticed electrical problems in your home or business? Flickering lights, broken breakers, outlets that wiggle and jiggle? Current Electric knows the most important thing is protecting your family, and our heroes are experts at electrical repairs and upgrades. With 8,500 five-star reviews and growing, we answer the call. Go to callcurrent.com. That's callcurrent.com. 262-786-5885. Keep your electricity alive.
Stop and think about everything you touch in a day that's made from plastic. Now, imagine it could come from agriculture. I'm Pam Yankee with a quick update on what's happening in food and farming news on a Monday. And there's a team on the UW-Madison campus looking at that exactly. They're trying to turn plant waste into plastic. Some of their goals include cutting greenhouse gas emissions and also trying to create some economic opportunities for rural Wisconsin. Shannon Stahl is one of the professors. He's affiliated with the Wisconsin Energy Institute that got a $4 million grant from the U.S. Department of Energy for the project. And he says their research is trying to address the growing demand for renewable resources and trying to make agriculture a part of that.
So the idea is that we could help in the decarbonization effort within the chemicals industry by using plant-based feedstocks, and ultimately they would be renewable. And so the ultimate goal is to create a circular economy where you can grow new plants, use them for our materials, and then they can return in a biodegradable way to the earth.
That's Shannon Stahl with the Wisconsin Energy Institute looking at turning plant waste into plastic. He said one of the real challenges with this kind of a project, though, is trying to make sure that those plant-based plastics are coming in at the same cost as the fossil fuel version.
Innovation, that's BioVet. Livestock producers rely on BioVet for microbial and nutritional support, keeping livestock eating and productive. Make BioVet your trusted partner for your livestock health since 1991. Learn more.
This is such a weird ad because most of it is like, at least this part, the like the innovation, that's BioVet. Like that's a little jingle, but the rest of it, they're just saying words, but it is to a tune.
It's our way of saying we are here.
It reminds me, in the Kimberly and Kimbo, the musical, there's a song called My Disease. It kind of reminds me of that.
And that family vacation you've been putting off? Yep, we're here for that too. Learn more at Compeer.com/patronage. Compeer Financial is an equal credit opportunity lender and provider. Copyright 2023, all rights reserved.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. I just looked up, just some text to read to the tune of a song. That doesn't make it a song. That doesn't make it clever.
Local FFA advisor or agriculture instructor. You can also start by going to the Wisconsin FFA website or ffa.org. There's your look at what's happening in food and farming news on a Monday. I'm Pam Yankee.
I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Under a mix of sun and clouds today as high temperatures climb mild once again, back into the mid-40s. We'll be bright and beautiful tomorrow and even warmer as highs reach 50 degrees. We even turn the dial up.
Thanks to you, the voters, and Governor Tony Evers. Welcome back. It is Monday, February 19th. 34 minutes past the hour. We are live here in Shawano, Wisconsin. Great song, Mr. Zommers, celebrating the fact that Governor Tony Evers this morning signed the legislation, the bipartisan legislation, into law with the maps that he had submitted to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Thus, creating a much more even playing field for the state of Wisconsin. And look at this, making a rare appearance, Dad, on the back porch here. He's recovering from eye surgery very nicely. Very nicely. So there he is. We're calling him Patch the Pony. So there you go. No, I don't think Dad wants to say anything. He just say hi, right, Dad?
Hi.
All right, there you go. Hi, that's all it is. All right, we are celebrating this here on the air. The fact that Governor Evers has gotten this done, and really was because of you, the voter. Off the YouTube line, Mr. Zommers, let's pull that up, please, if we could do that. Had Andrew off YouTube. We've got to be pragmatic here, says Andrew. Most Wisconsinites don't even know who Voss is. This is a big win for Evers, which he can run again on, unquote. I agree. I mean, I agree. I think that the governor did the right thing, sure, politically for himself, but I actually believe this is what the people of Wisconsin want. They voted for Janet Protasewicz 11% plus a year ago in April. All right? I think that voters in Wisconsin would have just thrown up their hands if Tony Evers had vetoed his own maps and said, see, they're all a bunch of players. What Tony Evers did today was prove that he's serious. Now, all the pressure is on Republicans. If they violate this agreement, if they allow, and make no mistake, that if a Republican-leaning friendly group files a lawsuit to delay these maps, that is 100% in conjunction with and the approval of the Republican Party of Wisconsin and Voss and LeMahieu. If there's a lawsuit to delay this, that's 100% on the Republicans. Tony Evers, in my opinion, did the right thing. He's taking a trip around the state in Milwaukee later on this afternoon, celebrating you, the Wisconsin voter. And by the way, if the Wisconsin legislature is serious, actually serious about real maps, fair maps, they would have passed the Iowa redistricting model, or they will before they leave town. They're going to gavel out later on for this session, later on into March, I believe. If Republicans in the legislature are serious, they'll pass the Iowa model redistricting legislation, the real one, not one that they kind of okay? 844-967-2789, 844-967-2789. Let's hear from Governor Tony Evers when he announced this in his conference room this morning. This is audio from Governor Evers this morning announcing the signature of Fair Maps in Wisconsin.
This is an important day and historic day for our state and for every person who calls Wisconsin home. Today is a day that I believe will define our state's future. This will be the first time in over 50 years that Wisconsin will have fair legislative maps enacted through the legislative process rather than through the courts. These maps will take effect immediately after publication and will be in place for the fall elections, providing certainty for candidates and campaigns that are gearing up to circulate nomination papers for this spring. Wisconsin, when I promised I wanted fair maps, not maps that are better for one party or the other, including my own, I damn well meant it. Wisconsin is not a red state. It is not a blue state. Wisconsin is a purple state, and I believe our map should reflect that basic fact. I believe, as I've also often said, that the people should get to choose their elected officials, not the other way around. This will become Act 94.
And there you have it. Governor Evers, the screaming there started as he signed it. He said this will be Act, whatever it was. He literally signed it, and people started applauding and yelling for joy, as they should. Great day here in the state of Wisconsin. What do you feel about Tony Evers signing this into legislation, these fair maps? 844-967-2789, 844-967-2789. Would love to hear from you. And look, like I say, I recognize and get that there are Democrats who are skeptical, thinking that Republicans are going to file some lawsuit to delay this, and they might. I'm not a Pollyanna here looking through rose-colored glasses, but I'm saying take the win when you can get one, because that's what the voters in Wisconsin put you there for, and he's keeping his word. And if the Republicans muck it up, that's on them. And particularly with a 4-3 liberal majority in the Wisconsin Supreme Court, who've already ruled the current maps unconstitutional, I feel good about maps, at least for the next 10 years, or short of that, until the next redistricting process, which, as I said, I call on Republicans now to go the extra step and actually pass legislation that adapts the true Iowa model to do redistricting in the future. There was a guy named Tim Cullen, senator from Janesville, Democrat. Guy named Dale Schultz, Republican from Richland Center. They authored a bipartisan plan on redistricting back in around 2011, 2012. That's still out there. You could adopt that. They dusted most of it off. They left out a couple of key things. Republicans now did. You could adapt that. You could pass it. Pretty sure Governor Evers would sign that into law as well. That's what Republicans need to do now to show that they're actually serious about fair maps moving forward. 844-967-2789. 844-967-2789. We are live here on Monday, February 19th in beautiful Shawano, Wisconsin. Tomorrow, Mr. Zommers, we will be, as I said, over at Chippewa Falls, WCFW. And then the rest of the week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we're going to be coming to you live from our studios in Hayward, Wisconsin. WBZH, the buzz of the North.
Yeah, Todd's sleeping in the studio, so he's going to wake up, yawn, and stretch on his air mattress, go take a shower, and then set up his computer, still sit on the air mattress. You can see his sheets in the background. No, that's not how it's going to be. But he is staying in the studio. That was not a lie.
People are thinking you're joking about that. He's actually not. I'm sleeping in the studio in Hayward. The plush studios of Hayward, Wisconsin. They're just like in biblical times, there was no room in the inn. So I'll be sleeping on the floor. But looking forward to it. Going to be a great time. I'm going to talk to some local folks in Hayward because we're covering the 50th annual American Birkebeiner, the Berkey. And people have said, well, Todd, how can they have the Birkebeiner when there's no snow? Well, they're actually making some as we speak. They're going to be the temperatures. They waited until last Monday to decide whether or not they're going to cancel it or not. And then they finally decided it was cold enough to make snow. So instead of the Birkebeiner going from Cable to Hayward, 22 miles or so, or kilometers, they're going to do a 10-kilometer loop around Cable. But we'll be in Hayward and talking to a lot of people and looking forward to that Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week. So big week. Looking forward to it. 844-967-2789. 844-967-2789. Let's go to the phone lines. Beautiful Mount Horeb. And Troy from Mount Horeb is on the line. Troy, thanks for calling. Let's see.
Hi. I guess I'll celebrate in November. So right now, I'm happy. I wish you to veto them, and I wish you to come out and said, I'm taking the senator out to figure a judge, so we need these maps now to have that special election, and then, and he could have gotten around what he said. Or I wish he wouldn't have said anything when he was asked the question to begin with. But
well, like I say, I mean, we could all, wish we would have said things differently in the past. But he said what he said. He said he'd sign the maps if the Republicans approved him, and he kept his word. In terms of the special election for now former Senator Lena Taylor's seat, who's now a judge, I mean, the reality of a Republican winning that seat is slim and none. So I don't think that the lines are going to make any difference there. And whether or not they could get the signatures to recall Robin Voss's own district, again, that's a stretch.
We also got.
Go ahead, Mr. Sommers. Yep.
We also got a comment from Rico on YouTube who says, "Who could blame us? We the people of Wisconsin. The GOP has pulled that football away so many times. We just can't believe that we're actually going to get to kick it."
Well, that's a fair comment. That's a fair comment. And I understand the skepticism. And again, I'm not saying that a lawsuit from the right isn't going to happen. It could. I'm just saying that to try to explain to the average Wisconsin voter why you vetoed your own maps is a political loser. All right? That's just, as someone who spent 30 plus years in politics and ran a lot of campaigns, that's a political loser to veto your own maps. So Tony Evers did the right thing, not only for himself politically, but I think for the overall good of the state of Wisconsin. People are tired of the same old political games. They want to get something done. And today, Tony Evers got something done. This from WisPolitics as well. Republicans now have a 22-10 supermajority in the state Senate with one vacancy and a 64-35 edge in the Assembly. A WisPolitics analysis of the maps shows Democrats likely only have 3 pickup opportunities in the Senate this fall under the Evers maps. Meanwhile, there would be a path to the majority in the Assembly, though it would depend on factors such as the performance at the top of the ticket, candidate quality, and resources. Unquote. In other words, these are competitive maps, right? and I think that this is what people want. People absolutely want fair maps, and that's what the governor got to do. Remember, Fair Maps Wisconsin, Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, League of Women Voters, all encourage Governor Evers to sign these maps. And I would say to my Democratic friends, be happy, be joyful. The people of Wisconsin won, the governor got a big win. Fair maps, now the law of the land. If, keyword if, there's a lawsuit moving forward, that is on the Republicans. And again, it's much easier for the general electorate to understand that than to veto the maps over a theory that you have no proof of. That's just the political reality. That's basic political messaging 101. 844-967-2789, 844-967-2789. Other big story from last night. Mr. Zomers, did you watch the old 60 Minutes with Anderson Cooper last night?
I did not. I wanted to, and then I remembered it too late.
Well, I tuned in and was going to withhold judgment until I saw the whole thing. I will say that Anderson Cooper pushed back a little bit more than he did in the clip that we played last week. But I would say that Andrew Hitt did a hit job on 60 Minutes last night. In other words, it was just kind of a bogus, I don't want to call it propaganda. I don't think it adequately showed the entire situation. And basically, Andrew Hitt tried to, former chairman of the Republican Party, fake elector, trying to say that he was tricked, he was duped into signing the fake elector things. We'll come back, play a couple of cuts. We'll debunk that and more in the final 10 minutes for a Monday on the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
We have Tom in Florida on the line about Andrew Hitt.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Joe from Madison also about
All
Andrew
right.
Hitt.
Thank you. Let's use one of the shorter clips from Hitt and we come back. Welcome Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. It is now 10 before the hour of 3 o'clock, 10 minutes away from news and weather. I am live on location here in Shawano, Wisconsin. Mr. Zomer is down at the world headquarters in Madison. Happy to have you along live on a Monday. As we said on the big story last night, 60 Minutes, Anderson Cooper interviewing former Republican Party Chairman Andrew Hitt on his involvement in the fake electors. Mr. Zommers, we have all kinds of them queued up. We'll do more of this tomorrow. I'll give you your choice, potpourri. Which one are we going to listen to first here?
So here is Andrew Hitt saying the main message that he had to deliver, and claiming that anybody who sees the text messages, the emails, the documents is going to make the same conclusion he did, which is that they were duped. I personally, and I think a lot of people do not read them that way, but whatever. This is what he had to say.
What do you think about Donald Trump continuing to claim that the 2020 election was stolen?
It wasn't stolen. It wasn't stolen in Wisconsin.
This past December, Andrew Hitt and Wisconsin's other Republican electors settled a civil lawsuit against them by some of the state's Democratic electors. They admitted they signed a document that was used as part of an attempt to improperly overturn the 2020 presidential election results. Hitt resigned as chairman of the Wisconsin Republican Party in August 2021. He's cooperated with the January 6th committee,
Using our electors in ways that we weren't told about, and we wouldn't have supported.
and he says he's also cooperated with federal prosecutors. He maintains he and the other fake electors in Wisconsin were tricked.
Whenever anybody sees our text messages, our emails, our documents, they understand, they know, their conclusion is we were tricked. The January 6th committee saw it. Jack Smith, specifically in his indictment, refers to some of the electors were tricked. That was us.
That's what he claims. Andrew Hitt, past Republican Party chairman, claims he was tricked. 844-967-2789. Let's go quickly to the phone lines. Tom in Florida. Tom, what say you?
Hey, Todd. So I think the issue was that the prosecutors saw that they might have a hard time proving that they weren't tricked. I think you and I and lots of your listeners think they weren't tricked. He's too smart of a guy. And I said, shame on CBS for giving him a forum to try and avoid a felony and lose his law license. But the more I thought about it, I thought, your listeners are a pretty sophisticated group. They're paying attention. There's an awful lot of Trump supporters who aren't paying attention, but they do watch 60 Minutes. And at the start of that, they saw this guy talking to a Trump rally and everybody cheering, and they probably identified with that. And then they saw the man himself calling out Andrew Hitt, even talking about his kids. So they said, this guy's for real. So by the end of the interview, when he says Trump ain't the guy and Trump lost the election, it actually could do some good for putting to rest this whole big lie. So I guess, on the one hand, it's self-serving for Andrew Hitt, but in the bigger picture, if this is what you get because you don't prosecute, because if they did prosecute, right, then it would just be, look, it's another witch hunt. It's politically motivated. But maybe some good comes of this.
I think it's a great point, Tom. And looking at Twitter last night and this morning, Republicans are going apoplectic. I mean, Brian Schimming, the current chairman, is putting out all kinds of other stuff. Mark Jefferson, the current executive director, who was named with Hitt in these texts and stuff, he's putting out all kinds. They know that having Hitt, the immediate past Republican chairman, denounce Trump, that ain't good for them going into 2024. So I think you're right, Tom. I think you have something there. Appreciate the call. 844-967-2789. Speaking of smart listeners, we have a Joe in Madison who always has something good to say. Joe, thanks for calling in. What say you?
Yeah, thanks very much. I'll be quick. I know we're coming to the end. And here is what I would say. Look at what Andrew Hitt has as his CV. He is a guy, he's not right off the turnip truck, people. He started out as an assistant DA prosecuting violent crimes in Milwaukee. He was a counsel for Scott Walker, the governor of the state, and his senior advisor. And most importantly, he was a senior counsel on Michael Best and Friedrich. And they come into play because, remember, folks, that is the law firm where off-site they sat and they created these stupid gerrymandered maps that we have spent so much time fighting against. Michael Best knows what they're all about, and they are all about winning for Republicans. And Andrew Hitt is still working for Michael Best and Associates. And I would point out to you that wee guy, oh, I was so scared. I was just so scared. Give me a break. He's a lawyer with a vast amount of experience, and he says he didn't know what was going on. Pick up the phone. Go to your law books. Talk to some other attorneys. You aren't an idiot. And if he was scared, call the police. Right?
Right. I agree. Or Joe, do what I did. I left the party long before it got that bad. If you saw it was getting bad, it's an easy way out. Just walk away. But if you stay there, that is a choice that you make.
Right. And to this point, this is about covering his tail feathers before something else is coming down the pipe. That is why this interview is happening. And that a senior counsel from such a law firm is saying, oh, I was tricked. Give me a break. If that's the caliber of the attorneys that are working there, good luck, Michael Best. Thanks.
Appreciate it, Joe. Always a great call. Great way to end the show. Thank you, Joe, very much in Madison. Also off the text line from Lisa Joe from Madison saying, fake electors were tricked into gathering off-site, tricked into being transported in unmarked cars to the Capitol, tricked into a room and a closed Capitol reserved by Scott Fitzgerald, and tricked into signing a document after Wisconsin Supreme Court had certified the election. Such BS. Also, someone off WMDX line in Madison saying Anderson Cooper did not ask the most important question. Who let them in to the Capitol to have this fake elector signing? All great questions. We'll have more on this interview. We'll play more of these cuts. We'll walk you through it. We'll debunk it when we're live tomorrow from Chippewa Falls. Also, much more tomorrow on the show, so do not miss it. Tuesday Tangents with our own Luke Mathers. And Mr. Zommers will be live in Madison. We're on the road all week. Join us. Thanks for being here. Mr. Zommers, great job in Madison. Thanks to all of our callers. Stay tuned for more news next. I'm Todd Allbaugh. Whatever you're fighting for, whatever you believe in, do not give up. Keep banging your drum.
Banging on your drum. Keep banging on, and your day will come. Keep banging on your drum, and they will hear you.
Well, all righty there.
Thank you, everybody. Mr. Zommers, fantastic job making everything work back at home. We appreciate that.
Yeah, and glad we got it all set up.
Yes,
and everything
my
worked.
father making a guest appearance on the show. So you never know what's going to happen.
You never know. All right. Adios, everybody.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye, everybody.